Hello, yes, I'm a doctor of Lazarology. How are you?
Did you watch the latest briefing?
Yes, I'm up to date on the briefs. I'm actually watching it for a second time right now as we speak.
Damn, I just finished it a little bit ago.
So, I mean, I won't ask you to go into it right now, I guess, or if you want. I mean, I'm just curious, what'd you think?
I thought it was okay. I wasn't too familiar with a lot of the details of the story, so it was interesting, like him going through all of this stuff from the sports model and the base and how it was arranged. You know, it didn't seem like there was too much new information. I wasn't really too impressed by the random photo that they tried to make out was like S4. I mean, I don't know. It could be, I guess, if you make it like that. I mean, there were just some small details that I was just like, as I was watching, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I thought it was funny as hell when he was like, there was a lot of AI. And I think that may be why the movie took so long, is they had to find these like filler shots that worked the best. And I think AI was a very big part of visualization of all of this stuff that he was talking about. I did think it was funny when he was like crawling through the thing or whatever. I didn't realize how much involved John Lear was either in all of this story and connecting him with Knapp. So, I mean, it was interesting to learn some more of the details about the case for sure. But, you know, I don't know how much impact this is really going to have. But it was interesting to watch and learn more about it.
I thought the picture was compelling. Like I was saying in my space, I would not go around selling it to other people being like, yo, this is going to convince you that Bob Lazar is legitimate. But I would point it out, I guess, in a documentary like this, just to say like, hey, you know, here's, you know, if you're interested in something like this is, you know, further proof that maybe Bob is telling the truth.
See, I didn't realize the whole timeline and that him bringing his friends out was what got him fired. Like, that's what messed everything up. It seemed like it happened in like days. You know, he only described a couple of times when he was at the base. I don't know how long that timeline was where he was working at the base and then brought his friends out. And then basically the next day he was like fucking fired. Like, they were like, you're done.
He was only working there for like 4 months or something.
Yeah, I want to
like
say
that.
6 months, something like that.
And that wasn't Bailey.
He got on base. He got on base way too fast too. Like, he got a security clearance way before he should have. And I like how he describes the badge and everything as like Department of Naval Intelligence, the MAJ, like the, you know, goes into a good description about some of that stuff. I thought that was good. I don't know why some of his friends, like, I don't know, they weren't very compelling. I was like, okay, this guy, again, we could do without him in the film. His buddy, whatever.
Oh, the main guy, the journalist or whatever the guy was. I don't even know what he was, but he was the main guy he confided in.
Yeah.
Duff. It was like Duff or something.
He was wearing a sleeveless shirt. Like, dude, you couldn't put on a freaking regular shirt.
Oh, then he had I think that was that the biker guy?
Yeah, the biker guy. The biker dude
His muscle.
did not have put on a regular shirt. He had to wear a sleeveless.
Was it Gene Huff?
No, Gene Huff was his main like best friend, I think. But then this guy, he said, rolled by his house when he was working on his rocket in a motorcycle, Miguel or something, and then they just became like good friends. And he's like, it was after he was introduced after Bob Lazar said that somebody followed him and like shot out his tire. And then this guy came and was like, I always got that thing ready. I was like, yo, this guy's down. He's ready.
Well, Bob Lazar likes guns. We know that. He likes things that explode.
Well, he said at one point, he said they went to the gym and he's like, yeah, they came back and like my machine gun was in the middle of the car. I'm like, damn, bro, you carrying a machine gun and shit to the gym.
Yeah, that's what I would do with my machine gun if I had one.
So one of the things that I wanted to double check right away, after, because I just finished the video like, I don't know, like 20 minutes ago, is this, the photo that people are sharing with the S4, what's supposed to be these hangar doors. He mentions 9 hangar doors, right? As like, that's how many there were. In this photo with these arrows, there's like 8 arrows pointing to these doors. And there could be another one. So it kind of checks out in that if there were these like door structure things, it does match up where he was like, there was 9 and then there's like almost 9 you can probably say in this picture. I don't know, but it's just, it's just so vague to present that as going to be some like big evidence kind of confirmation 100% that what he's saying is real. It's just like, I don't know, man.
Well, I know people's words don't count for much, but noted aviation historian Jim Goodall, vouched for Bob Lazar, and Jim Goodall, I believe, is, a legit source for information about, the history of what's going on because he worked at Lockheed.
Who was the guy who worked at Area 51 who said they saw Lazar get on the bus to S4? I don't know who that was. Was that who you're talking about? Goodall? Did he ever work at Area 51?
Well, I heard him in an interview say that, Bob Lazar was all good by him. And if it's all good by Goodall, it's got to be all good.
All right, I'm going to say this, and this might be a little bit controversial. Jim Goodall is fucking out there, man. He is whacked out a little bit. But
in what way?
He's a little outspoken in certain areas. I don't want to get into it specifically. He's very outspoken, he likes to tell stories. I know from Spaced Out Radio, I've heard him get interviewed on SOR quite a few times, so I know Jim Goodall a little bit.
Okay. It still doesn't describe very much of why you think he's way out there, except that I'm sure he worked on a whole bunch of innovative aviation products at Lockheed, and so I would tend to take his word on things, I suppose, in terms of, personnel who worked there or whatever.
Yeah, I do remember somebody that looked like Jim Goodall or was Jim Goodall say that they saw Bob Lazar on the bus. This was during one of the Jeremy Corbell, right? That was in the Jeremy Corbell documentary.
I have it on my page. I'll try and find the video. I have whoever said it on camera. I shared that clip like a month ago or something. I'll try and post it up.
I mean, historians love to tell stories. I should know. I work at a museum, so.
Some of the stuff was just, I don't know, it was pretty interesting. Like, I felt like if you were making it up, it was very thoroughly, thought out in terms of how the story, like even the stuff where I thought it was interesting that when he went to the doctor, the woman doctor, he's like, this was the only woman that worked on the whole site. I'm like, damn, there were, you know what I'm saying? Like there were no women that worked on the site out of all the stuff that he was working on, which was kind of surprising to me. But they said like he had to like get shots, you know, like, and then he had to drink this liquid, and he didn't even know what it was, and that he kind of like had this reaction. So it was just like some weird stuff like that because he was dealing with, and that the Russians, they were working with the Russians before, and the Russians made some big discovery, but then they kicked the Russians out. So there's just like little nuggets in there that I'm just like, damn, that's kind of interesting. Like, I don't know where that's coming from. Even with the beings, like they were playing old clips of Lazar. And I felt like I've heard this before, but he's like, they're from Zeta Reticuli and they were back engineering our DNA. And I'm like, what the, like, where are they getting that shit from?
Good questions. Do you think it's all speculative, or do you think that there's some glint of truth there? Maybe they, identified a star system that they're from, but, they don't really know or whatever. I mean,
yeah, see, it seemed hyper compartmentalized. Even when they were talking about looking, like they were working in the same ship, but they didn't even know who the people were who were in the same. Like they were working inside the craft, and then he's like, me and my partner were here, and then there was another team over there. We didn't even know who they were, and we were just and then he's like, then they opened up the door hangars, and there's like 9 ships. There's 9 hangars. There's like 9 ships that they're working on. He's like, I don't even know what was going on. So it seemed very hyper compartmentalized to where nobody even knew what was really going on.
Exactly the way it was. My uncle worked at Lockheed around the same time after World War II, and my father was a Air Force captain in World War II and helped fly the planes from America up through Alaska to give them in parts over to the Russians so they could fight Hitler with our aircraft. It was a Lend-Lease program we had. And the only reason I know about that mission, because Dad never talked about his service, except the funny stories like you're talking about. The guys who flew that mission were eventually given permission to write a book about it. It's called Cobras Over the Tundra. And the inscription inside of my copy here that I inherited from my father says to Merrill, one who was there, signed by one of the co-authors. It was co-authored by one Russian and one American. Cobras Over the Tundra. You can look it up. I don't have the ISBN number off the top of my head, but I can find it. I'm just saying our cooperation behind the scenes with other countries is very different from what we're being shown mainstream on our TVs. There's no doubt about it. No matter who's reporting, you're getting curated news with filters all over the place on it.
Yeah, I was just going back to the compartmentalization of how Lazar would end up finding out that information about Zeta Reticuli and all this about the beings, because at some point he's like, well, I think we had beings, he's never seen them. And then he's like, they were outfitting with puppets. And then all of a sudden he's talking about the origins of what's associated with the craft. Like, where is he getting, the only way that I would figure he would get that information is from this dude, Dennis, like his boss or whatever, who was like really excited to work with him. And even at one point, UAP Comeback Kid, I think, right? Like they try to meet at some casino, and like the guy, he calls him and is like, yo, let's meet at the casino. And then he walks to the casino and is walking around and is like, I recognize these guys from the base. And then the guy, Dennis, he said he walked up to the guy, Dennis, who was his boss, his superior at S4. and it ended up calling him and was like, yo, let's meet at the casino. Like, I want to tell you something. And then he walks up physically to the guy, Dennis, who he sees at the casino. But as he's walking up, he sees like all these like sus guys from the base who he's like, yo, this shit's kind of weird. Like, I recognize these dudes. And then the guy, he's like, hey, Dennis, what's up? And the guy, Dennis, doesn't even recognize him, like, doesn't even respond. He's just like looking down at the table or whatever. And then he just walks off and like nothing happens. And I'm like, what? Like, that's just such a weird story.
I believe it was probably because Dennis was tipped off that Bob had showed up with like a crew of people with him. And Dennis was like, okay, well, you know, you were supposed to come alone. You didn't. Deal's off. I'm not talking to you. I'm going to pretend I don't know you. You know, that's how I took that as a possibility.
That makes sense. He was saying that he thought Dennis was there on behalf of trying to reveal something or like tell him the truth, and then these other guys from the base who are like the conspiracy, you know, guys trying to take him out, were there and were, you know, listening to his phone calls and shit and kind of ambushing him or whatever. Which doesn't make sense too in the scheme of, like, here's another thing is a lot of this, in the scheme of things, it doesn't make sense, because why would the guy reach out to him and try and reveal something when the last time that they spoke, he was like, bro, like when we said, the day after, Lazar brought all his friends out to Area 51 and they filmed that stuff, and then the craft like flew over and then they got caught and Lazar got outed. The next day, he had to ride with the guy Dennis to some base or whatever for like 45 minutes. And the one thing that the guy Dennis said to him was like, bro, we brought you into classified information. It's not to bring your friends out and tell your friends. So I just don't know why he would reach back out and be like, oh, let me tell you these secrets, bro.
They probably were going to do something to him.
I bet.
Kidnap him.
Well, I'm pretty sure I saw the Jetson cars back in 1997 as I was taking a midnight drive once. So I'm not at all convinced that Lazar was lying. Truly, not convinced about that. Plenty of people will, you know, downplay and try to, you know, ruin other people's reputations in order to keep this all under wraps, but it's all unraveling pretty darn fast as far as I can tell.
I think one interesting thing about his story, and it's always kind of stuck with me, is that in a world where we get all these fantastical stories like daily, weekly, or whatever, if you look at a program that was like reverse engineering this stuff or working on it, if you just strip away everything and look at what he talks about in regards to that, it kind of seems plausible. Like, I don't know, it seems kind of fairly grounded. Like, he's like, yeah, it's brought me in. They didn't tell me shit. I worked on this one thing with this one other guy, and that was it. And I was like, sounds somewhat plausible to me.
No, there are definitely things that I'm like, if it's either real or it's very thought out to where you would think about the intricate details of, you know, some of this stuff that you wouldn't normally think about. You go through this and you're like, like that's interesting. Like I wouldn't think about even how the propulsion works in reality. Like he's even pointing out that like one of the propulsion things was right in front of the seat. He's like, that stood out to me because it didn't make sense of like where. So he was pointing out even the weird things, you know.
Or what about like the American flag on one of the crafts?
Right. He said the flag was like in the opposite direction before he got in. So he was like, that's weird.
Well, and I'm wondering too about anomalies that people notice about stuff that happens in their own lives, you know, like on certain dates, at certain times, you know, and you go, is there more to this than just my imagination? Because when David Wilcock came out with his revolutionary hover cars, I was like, forget it, man. Forget it, you know. They already exist. They've existed for quite some time. I reported it way back in 1997. Well, in 2001, when I saw the Disclosure Project with Dr. Greer.
So you're OG.
I'm so OG. I'm probably more OG than anybody, not in a research way, but with my engagement with aviation. I was flying from the time I was in diapers with my dad. He was in the Civil Air Patrol, and we used to signal him from the ground. He'd signal us when he'd fly overhead, and we'd signal him from the ground. And that's what I did with these Jetson cars back in 1997. I told the whole story, and it's a long one because, history buffs love stories, but it's all my real experiences. It's on Spreaker. It's from October 17th, 2022, Strange Recon. And the name, he renamed the show Dorothy Hawkins Saves the Show because his guest, Holly Wood, had injured herself and she wasn't going to show up for the second half. So it's on Spreaker, and you can find it under Strange Recon. And
Shout out Hollywood.
October 17th just happens to be
that when that happened.
It just happens to be my late mother and my late husband's birthday. Was it on purpose? Was it an accident? I don't know, but there it is. Whoop, there it is.
I watched the documentary. I watched the Lazar thing. I think his friend talking about when they were watching before they got busted. We've seen John Lear talk about those times, but him talking about how that craft would just be far away and then bang, it's right in front of you. That was convincing. That was no drone, if that guy's telling the truth. I believe there's a lot of truth to the Lazar story. I think Lear was a source, and I think it was a reverse engineering program there. I think he got access and he talked about it because he was getting pushed out quickly. I don't know about every aspect of it being true or not, or what he was, even if he's telling the truth, what he was fed is part of the story. Like you were saying about the star system they're from, etc.
Yeah, Zeta Reticuli and their origins, and that he was saying that they had altered our DNA. We're like actively doing. I was like, how did he know that? Where did he get that?
Didn't he also talk about the souls and containers?
Yeah, like they referred to us as I'm like, okay, like I fuck with that, but how do you know? Like, where does he get that? Where's that discussion? He didn't really talk about like briefings that he was getting on like the beings or the aliens. He almost felt like, oh, we never even saw the beings, man. Like he didn't even have access to the upper level, like he only had access to 2 of the 3 levels. He's like, we couldn't even go up to the 3rd one.
There was some overview he was given in the book, he said, and he didn't know to trust. He thought it was bullshit as he's reading it. Now we hear it, and it's like, these are things they told him. But that's how he presented it in the book, is he's waiting for somebody to say, we gotcha, But then the tech is what started to convince him that part of it was real. I don't know. If he made this stuff up, see, the George Knapp thing, the report, him being anonymous, and then feeling that sense of that we don't know him, we're not going to comment at all that stuff happening, whether he was lying about it or telling the truth about it, that could have been a proper reaction from those locals when the news is knocking on their door about all the secret shit there. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that he was telling the truth if all that other stuff starts happening, because he's obviously identified as a person talking about what's going on there, lying or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder how much Lear was involved in that, because before that, he was like the Area 51 guy. And George Knapp said that the reason why they took all of this story as serious is because John Lear gave him a story about an aircraft, like something that may have been like B-52s or something that was being developed.
Is the F-117 stealth?
Yeah, so that couldn't be detected on radar. And he's like, and that checked out, and that was a big story for the news station for. So I wonder how it played out, and it seems like it was happening in a very short amount of time, where he's bringing these guys out, you know, like John Lear and his friend, and they're all going out to Area 51, and they're seeing all this stuff, and then within a couple of weeks, they're going out multiple times, then they get caught. And then the news story comes out where he's going out and he's this like anonymous dentist guy, and then it just like it blows up from there. But it seems like that was like the time in which he decides to bring his friends out, he basically gets fired and gets his access taken away, and then he comes public and starts getting like these threats or whatever, and then it's like, fuck, I gotta come out and go public with this. Seems like it was a very short amount of time, like a month or so.
Has Lear ever told how he came across Lazar or how they met?
I'm guessing the Huff guy is because he was some sort of journalist, and I feel like he would have connected those two, that if Lazar was like, yo, come out to Area 51, and it's like, oh, well, John Lear's been on Area 51 and weird stuff happening, like, we got to bring him out. So it might have been like a group.
That isn't quite right. That isn't quite right. So they all met at Lear's house. Lear introduced a bunch of them. And so it's never been clear to me that Lear was not the instigator of all this stuff. But he was attracted to Bob because Bob was doing these crazy things with cars. And, you know, Lear was a crazy guy with airplanes. It was just kind of a let's go hang out stuff. And Lear cultivated strange people like that. And then he introduced him to Jim Goodall. And Goodall saw all this kind of documentation of things in Lazar's background that have since like gone poof. And they all hung out at Lear's house, and then Lazar, Lazar was at Lear's house before he ever went to get the job. He knew Lear before he went to get the job. And he was telling people that he was sorry for John Lear because he thought that Lear was crazy because he believed in UFOs. Then he went to work and got wiser. Then he started taking them all out to the desert, showing them the flights. And I cannot get past this impediment to saying he's a total 100% fake. He knew the flight schedule of top secret timing tests that were occurring on the base. There is no way I can put that together with Lazar being a fake. Now, did he do the things he claims he did on the base? I have no way of knowing. I don't believe in element 115. I know a fair amount about nuclear stability, and Moscovium, this has nothing stable near it. Just flies apart in a few microseconds. Just kind of make any sense. So we know a lot of the timeline, not from Lazar, from all the people that were around John Lear that met Lazar. He went to work out there, came back, and then had a major deal change. And then they started going out and looking the craft flying, and then they got caught. And Lazar, I think, panicked, did whatever he did. I mean, I knew Lear. I went to his funeral. He had a huge wake after his funeral for all sorts of people, and in Las Vegas, and it was just kind of a deal. And
I wired a house for one of his brothers, I believe, and his other brother was on the jury for Scott Peterson at the time, and he used to call from the bathroom.
Yeah. I mean, people do not quite get what an odd character Lear was. He was so odd. But I mean, this guy, he was infamous inside the agency for doing crazy flights that no one else would even attempt. He was the #1 pilot at Air America.
Yeah, John, or Bob and John met because of Gene Huff came over to his house to appraise John Lear's house. John Lear needed an appraisal done on his house, and Gene Huff had hit up Lear and said, hey, I want to get hold of all these UFO tapes and everything you have. And Lear's wife at that time was like, hey, you got to get this stuff out of here. And so Lear said, okay, well, if you come over and appraise my house for me, I'll give you the tapes. And then Bob Lazar was with Huff that day to hold the tape measure. That's how they met. But I agree with you, Bob, in the sense of the Lear and him were friends. Bob were friends for months before Bob ever went up there. And I think that's one of the biggest plot holes for the whole thing for me, is I think when you look at Lear's like one of the best storytellers ever in ufology. Like I could listen to that guy forever. He's a lot of fun to listen to, but great writer. And I think that they had a lot of time to put a lot of that story together, in my opinion. And John's got the connections, flew for the CIA, knew a lot about what was going on out there at Area 51 at the time. What was it, the F-117, or the fighter that he leaked over to George Knapp about that information. So he knew about what was going on out there. Lear is really the heart of that story.
He is central. He is central.
He's the heart. Yeah.
He is the heart and soul of the Bob Lazar story, because he was central to this cast of characters: Gene Huff, Jim Goodall, Bob Lazar. He is central.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much he was involved in it. It was interesting to learn how like the Lazar and like the Teller thing happened, because I feel like that was, he was like presenting about his car, and then Teller was the one who kind of recruited him into the position that got him into it. So that, I mean, that's like the deep roots of it. But then we're talking about this like month period of time where Lazar brings Lear and Huff and all these guys out to this specific site. I think that's where it gets a little bit like, that's the story where he brings the people out and basically gets fired the next day and then goes public.
Well, so one more thing is Bob showed Goodall and shared with him or whatever multiple pieces of evidence of his working for EG&G out at Area 51. Goodall, good friend of mine, Jim and I, we're good friends. And he went with the documentation to the Pentagon to a guy who was at the top of naval intelligence, showed him Bob Lazar's, I'll get it right in a minute, Bob Lazar's paperwork, and the admiral blew a effing gasket, threatened Goodall, snatched the craft away from him. As far as I know, he burned it. But Goodall tells that story, and the thing about it is he never changes a single detail. And I just trust Jim. I do. He's the greatest guys I've ever met in my life. And he is a guy. The guy's been married 7 times.
I don't know. For me, it's the Ed Teller thing, Astral, is like, it's probably impossible at this point, right? But I think if you could prove the phone call from Ed Teller, maybe I could get on board that they just got Lazar out there for either disinformation or they just wanted somebody to get a different take on it. But you'd have to prove that call, man. A lot of it.
It's hard to do. But one thing we can prove, and George Knapp proved it. Bob Lazar was in a Los Alamos phone book, 2 of them, when Teller was there.
No, I agree with that. I think they probably had interaction. They've probably been around each other, but I mean, that's still different from getting hooked up on a job. It's still another whole side.
I totally agree. I'm not claiming there's a knowable way, right, since Bob is out here telling a
I think Bob was in a real program, honestly, but I think he was potentially fed some misinformation or disinformation, kind of like that. What was it, like the containers, like all that, like theology stuff. I suspect maybe that was like to throw off. I don't know about the rest of it though.
I haven't looked at the Lazar documentary. Is it worth watching?
I watched it today. I think it's good. If I wasn't too familiar with a lot of the details of the story, so and there were some nuggets in there that I thought were pretty interesting. I don't know. If you're into the Bob Lazar, I mean, maybe if you're not, if you are, it would be a good $10. I mean, it's $10, so whatever you think is value of that. It's not the age of disclosure, which was like $25 fucking dollars, but.
Yeah, I get it. So look, I have no idea what Bob Lazar was out there at Area 51 and S4. I have no idea. I believe he was there. For all I know, he was a janitor, and for all I know, he could have been all the way in S4 working on the reactor. I just don't know the answer. But he is too far in with lots of documentation for parts of his story not being absolutely true.
It's funny you say it could have been a janitor, Bob. Do you remember hearing Lear tell that joke where he said, a lot of people say that Bob must have been a cook out there. He goes, well, if that's true, then they tell the cooks when they fly the flying saucers. It's so funny.
Exactly. How do the cooks know unless they overhearing people talking in line in the cafeteria saying stuff that'll get them thrown in jail out of Area 51? I just don't believe it.
Yeah, he said he saw the schedule. So he was like across from the dude, Dennis, and he saw the flight schedule and every one of them was on a Wednesday. So he started, asking about it, and that's how he knew. Is like Wednesday nights, he would just bring his guys out there.
Yeah, so he had to have been inside just to happenstance see that schedule. I have a problem with that. Let me put it this way. To anyone who has been out there, such a thing would never be hung in a public place. The place it would be hung is on a closed place to look at stuff like that, closed off, unless you had a need to know. And then you're on the bigot list of the waged, unacknowledged special access program that controls your work. You go inside the little tiny skiff that only people on the bigot list can go in, with all sorts of security to make sure no one goes in there except what's on the waged, unacknowledged special access program bigot list, and only they can see that schedule. That really troubles me, that it was claimed it was out in the open. I don't believe.
Yeah, it was like a paper. Another thing that I just remembered that was funny that they made a point of was like this calendar it was a poster that had the sports model, a picture of the sports model, and then the words "they're here," and it was like up on the wall. And he's like, they made this big thing where he like had to go up. He's like, I didn't know whether it was real or not. I didn't, like I wanted one, but they had the poster of the sports model and the phrase "they're here" like posted up on the wall. I thought that was funny.
Yes.
It's like I want to believe, but they were like, oh fuck it, well, they're here. They're already here. Got Missile Man jumped up. What's up, bro?
Hey, what's up? Just driving home, saw the space. Excuse me. Has anybody watched it? Anything jump out at you that's interesting?
I just watched it. I just got done watching it like 10 minutes ago.
Nice. Yeah, give us your thoughts, man.
So, and Bob was asking if it was worth watching. I thought it was good. To me, the most interesting thing was the idea that if what Lazar is saying is true, this is the closest firsthand account to like the materials and the explanation. And with CGI, I think they did a good job showing you things, showing you details that kind of made you ask more questions about what the whole thing might look like if there's validity to it. So I think it's worth watching. I thought it was good. I was entertained for sure.
And I just want to remember one more thing. No one in the public world ever associated with media or anything like that knew and talked about the existence of Area 51 until George Knapp interviewed Bob Lazar in camera, where he was backlit, so looks like he was in shadow. That's the first time ever in public.
Right, it wasn't even confirmed. Obama confirmed it, right? Like on stage, I think, and that was just recent. I think he was the first person to confirm that Area 51 existed.
Well, he was definitely the person that declassified by saying when he hung the presidential medal around Shirley MacLaine's neck, he made a joke about her doing stuff at Area 51 because she's a UFO and non-human intelligence fanatic.
Hold on. There was an executive order signed under Clinton that acknowledged the existence of Area 51.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just telling you what I know in public.
It was funny though that no, go ahead.
And John Lear as well. Lear flew nearby and took photos and posted and all that.
Yeah, I would. Clinton got all into declassifying stuff, taking stuff that had been built inside the government with taxpayer dollars and returning it to the U.S. corporations and groups to help with their activities or hire people and make money. And it's one of the strangest things that happened to me in my entire long career was I got called to come to the chief scientist, his name was Kay Spireman, at the National Security Agency. I was told to come in and be prepared to talk about my super secret demodulation and decoding of the Venus Vega balloon program probe that the Russians sent up to go to Venus, drop off some probes, and then go on to Halley's Comet. So the story's not well known, but I'm just it's more than declassified by now. Anyway, so I went in there and I was shocked. There was Jill Tarter and Barney Oliver and Carl Sagan, etc., in Kay Spireman's office. And you can imagine what I said. I says, what in the fuck is this? I says, because I was given no warning except to be prepared to tell that story. So the Spireman called the meeting together and he says, okay, we have received executive order about declassifying materials and handing special purpose devices we might have developed and give them to people in science and corporations. In corporations, no one special. Everyone in the corporation that wants some of this can get it. Anyway, so Carl Sagan was the person who arranged this particular set of transfers on behalf of SETI with NSA. And, everybody had this feeling of belief or whatever that Sagan hated the intelligence community and that he didn't want anything to do with the Department of Defense. Well, let me tell you, I'm calling bullshit right now. And I'll explain to you why I'm calling bullshit. There is one way and one way only. You get your name and picture with a green bordered badge from an intelligence agency. You are a regular visitor and you are working on contract for them. Carl Sagan had that badge on his neck. He was very much involved with the intelligence community. Very much, or he would not have been. So I told him the story of how the Russians built this balloon probe that was going to drop when they did the Venus flyby to get an acceleration to go to Halley's Comet. They were dropping these balloon probes into the atmosphere of Venus. And the early part of the descent, it went too deep into the atmosphere and was buffeted around by large winds. There were big temperatures. And so the oscillators on board were unstable and the winds were like 400 miles an hour. So the thing rocked, and it was like a gondola of instruments at the end of a long tether below a helium balloon. And so it's a pendulum being excited all over the place. And it was an L-band transmission. So they had residual Doppler that was like crazy. And they couldn't demodulate these first 4 transmissions where they were getting all this atmosphere and cloud data. And they were desperate to demodulate it. Well, in 1986, I became full-time at the Institute for Defense Analyses, like Harold Malmgren, a good place to hide and do weird stuff, and nobody knows you're there and can't get it from with a subpoena or anything else. Anyway, so I was asked by an advisor from JPL to see if I could work on demodulating that data. I had just finished my PhD, which was on nonlinear filtering and smoothing. And a nonlinear filter process is a phase lock loop phase tracker, like in a transmitter. But it doesn't need to be linearized like all commercial ones do. It works in a fully nonlinear mode. So I got the code running on one of NSA's Cray supercomputers, and I demodulated this data from the Venus Vega balloon probe. And we flew it out. The story about what we did to fly it out and give it to the Russians is crazy. But let's just say no fingerprints or any identifying marks could be on it. And we had to type the 1s and 0s out on a piece of paper, flew it to JPL, and they walked it into another room and gave it to the Soviets and said, we'll only give this to you if you never promise to gripe and tell that we violated our agreement and recorded your transmissions. Like anybody didn't know. Anyway, so Sagan got told that story. The reason they wanted me to tell that story to Sagan is because Sagan was a Venus planetologist. And he just went goofy apeshit finding out how those first transmissions got decoded. I had no idea. I just went there and told the story, and he went nuts. And so then we gave them equipment that in a very special mechanism that nobody in the world knew about until NSA let it out, how to receive pulsed transmissions. So pulses can be transmitted at extremely high power. And if I were non-human intelligence on another planet and I wanted to signal the Earth, I would send out huge power pulse transmissions. And that's what we were giving them toys for. Anyway, I've run on long enough. You get the idea. It was crazy and unreal. And the number of synchronicities keep drawing me back into this crap and talking about it is just unreal. Okay.
Before we get too far from it, also Area 51 was also mentioned in the UFO Cover Up Live, that 88 documentary too, before Lazar. So it's been out there.
Elections jumped up. What up? Bob, you just defobulated my brain right there with that story, by the way.
No shit.
Well, I mean, look, it's recorded, so now everybody in the fucking world can know it.
Astral Great Space, Bob, amazing story as always. Just one quick point. I think there's a good reason to believe that Sagan was a longtime member of the Legacy Group, and he was the front guy to create this information regarding science.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He was a regular, longtime visitor to NSA and other members of the intelligence community because he had an intelligence community badge that, with his name on it, that indicated he was a contractor. The color coding and name and all of that. I saw his picture on it. He cannot say he did not love the intelligence community, or they wouldn't have let him in the door, much less given him a badge.
Well, they gave the details of the hand machine and the documentary, where basically, like, I think Lazar was talking about the first time that he put his hand in, it spit out his card, or maybe every time they spit out this, like, the MAJ card or whatever that he got, and that it kept track of everything and everywhere that he was going in the base and shit. But it wasn't the hand reader in some movie or some prop, or, you know, I feel like the hand.
Yeah, close encounters, yeah.
It was in Close Encounters, yeah.
And some others. Hangar 18, I think, had one. But anyway, there have been multiple where there was a craft and you could see that hand thing. After all those stories came out, it became popular.
Go ahead, Elections. I know you. Did you?
No, that was it.
Oh, okay.
And this is just a good room. I'm enjoying listening.
After I keep telling people, they don't really have a clue who I am. And that's just fine with me. It's fine. I like being half unknown.
So what year was that, Bob? That was, so they were Soviets, so that was cooperation.
No, it was
1986.
1986.
Yeah, so in 86, that was cooperation with the Soviets. People, young guys don't get the Cold War at all, right?
Oh, no.
You guys
we had an agreement.
Right?
We had an agreement. We agreed to use the Deep Space Network to receive their probes, transmissions from Venus and Halley's Comet. We provided them with their downlink.
So people that talk about the Russians and Lazar's story, the Russians working alongside, I'm sure they were compartmental. You talk about being compartmentalized. If they're there, they're under guard and compartmentalized too. But yeah, your story is an example of actual cooperation, where a lot of people flagged that, and the Lazar story is, no way would they be doing it, you know?
People don't know that we operated listening posts with the People's Republic of China until we got all pissed off with each other. It's just, people have no clue, and just be grateful, because I promise you, ignorance is bliss. Knowing all this shit is a burden.
You've been seeing Tim Burchett's quotes, and it's been a lot of stuff this week.
He's on one today, boy. Jesus.
Well, he and Luna are both on it. Now, that list of specific documents was a damning admission that they had been told about some stuff.
Matt Gaetz kind of spoke out too, huh?
Did you see I might have got who the source was, though, which is concerning? The dude JP, or Jorge, whatever. He was at Eglin Air Force Base the same time that Luna and Gaetz were investigating this claim. So I think he might have been the source for this story that Gaetz is talking about with the alien hybrid program and shit.
I think her list is much more impressive than.
Oh yeah, I mean that to me seems a lot more specific of what files need to be released, what she's talking about. I mean, I like to see that. The Burchett, I'm gonna be honest, Burchett. I feel like Burchett's like, he's fucking tired. Like he looks spent, dude. Like, yeah, I know we need to release this shit. I just don't know how to do it. Like, he's the chairman of Doge. Like, what like, we're talking about Arrow. Like,
based off their buddy, and people think the president controls that stuff. That is not who controls it. If the National Security Advisor and the National Security Council get into office, and the intelligence community does everything it can to influence who is the National Security Advisor. The National Security Advisor is the gatekeeper on what the president knows. He is absolutely the gatekeeper. No one gets in and nothing gets out except through the National Security Advisor. And if a president is not trusted by the National Security Advisor and the other legacy people that are hanging around the National Security team inside the White House, they are the ones that never get briefed. The ones who get briefed are vetted by the National Security Advisor, and then they decide to brief him. And some briefer comes in from CIA or wherever and does the briefing. The NSA, National Security Advisor, is who decides which presidents get told the secret.
I think even though just the statement by Burchett is frustrating enough where he's like, I was briefed 2 weeks ago. If you knew what I knew, if the public knew what I knew, their hair would be on fire and people would well, then fucking say it, dude. And people, to me, look, man, we need somebody to grab a sack and fucking say it by now, dude. If Burchett, if you're the old country boy who cares about the people and do all that, then why the fuck would you go on and tease this shit? Just say it, dude. If the shit's gonna keep everybody up at night, let the cards fall. And I think that's what is increasing frustration in the community is these dudes are speaking on, trying to be on behalf of the people and be like, oh, you guys, you just don't know, bro. If you know what I knew, you wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I know this shit and you don't know it. It's just fucking say it, bro. If you gotta go to jail, we're past that time. We need somebody to go to jail for what they say. We need somebody to actually go through the process of revealing secrets, classified information, and they take the bullet. They take one for the team. And they go off, and that will create public sentiment and backing bigger than anything that's going on right now. People will be like, "Oh shit! This dude actually came out and said it. Let's back this dude."
Okay, so let me ask you this: Bob Lazar was inside. He worked on the craft, and he came out and talked about it. How many people in here actually believe him? Whoever did this, congressman or other, his character would be completely assassinated. He would have shit made up about him, and all of a sudden there would be records proving all the horrible things he did. You just are too naive to know what you're asking. They would be destroyed by any means necessary. He would never be able to defend himself, and he knows it.
He talked about the briefing he got about them being in vast numbers in the ocean. He talked about that in that interview as he walked away. So he did talk about it. He told everybody it was in a briefing. Was he going to say it every time he's interviewed? He's talked about it.
There was a Los Angeles class nuclear submarine that traversed the Indian Ocean. And when it was in one of the deepest parts, the sonar, etc., picked up something, and they sent something down as deep as it could go. But it was so deep that no sunlight could reach it, but it was not anywhere near the bottom. The bottom was farther away than the sun was above it, but the cameras got lights from the bottom. That means it was huge and very, very bright.
Going back though, I don't think that we're taking this whole thing to task, or taking it all the way. An example is, let's bring it back to Lazar. George Knapp advised Lazar not to go in and testify in front of Congress. Why not? This is the best opportunity to bring somebody forward that talks about and somebody going on record under oath in a congressional hearing like Lazar of saying he was in the craft, he was at S4. These are the locations I was at. I was working on this. It's great that you say it on a documentary, okay, but it's different, I feel like, to say it under oath and then start the real investigation that they have to start looking into because of that.
The very next day, there will be press releases all over the place that talks about Bob Lazar's felony conviction for running a prostitution ring and having a brothel. They would assassinate his character until no one believed him.
But aren't people kind of smart enough nowadays to kind of see through that stuff?
Yes, in this room, there are quite a few of them. And those of us who've seen this counterintelligence bullshit practice their entire careers, yeah, we would believe it. But why is a guy that goes to work in the Budweiser plant or working at Walmart or what? Why would they believe it? And that's the vast majority of the United States.
That's a fair point.
Oh, believe you me, I've thought about this 1,000 times. And I just hold back because I know what it would be like.
I think you would know though that what you're getting into though. To me, like that's implied. If you're going to come out and say that, you're going to know that they're going to dig into your past and try to expose you or any kind of secrets or bad stuff that you would have. So, you know, I feel like that's, you know, same with this Matthew Brown stuff. Matthew Brown's like, I didn't know that they were going to do this, you know, oh man, like you should have, if you've studied the topic at all, you should have known they were going to expose you and try to bring some stuff up and dig in.
He was a contractor working on a specific thing near the E-ring in the Pentagon and exposed to this accidentally. And it was startling to him what was happening. And I think he just didn't have any idea because he was never an insider working for the government as a government employee. He was a contractor.
Right. And honestly, I don't think it's all him. I think actually quite a bit is probably Corbell convincing him to come out and then him having to deal with this because Corbell wanted this story.
Oh, goodness gracious, yes. Yeah, I'm absolutely convinced of that.
Hey, Astro, what about that JP fellow that briefed Gates? Tell me a little bit about that guy.
He was on, what was that show? But he has come out with, to me, not very credible information about breeding underground programs. He worked in the Army. He was stationed at Eglin Air Force Base right around the time. So he's coming out now on some of these podcasts and kind of embracing this, you know, ufology fame or whatever as like some sort of whistleblower, but I don't think he's credible at all.
Thanks.
But I was honestly just trying to look into who the person was because it didn't seem, I don't know, it seemed off that somebody would just show up in uniform and brief someone in a non-classified setting about an alien breeding program. I'm like, yo, that's got ufology guy written all over it. So I'm like, who has worked in the Army, who is in the Army and like is talking about anything alien breeding programs and recently, and he popped up. And then I looked into him just a little bit, you know, and come to find out he was at Eglin Air Force Base where Gates and Luna both investigated cases. So it would seem to me like they would have crossed paths at some point and he would have been like, hey guys, like this is my story, like this is what's going on. And now he's coming out more publicly. So I don't know, like that's kind of my investigation into it.
Was Gates specifically asked about that or did he just say it? Because I find that kind of odd too. He just came out and said it.
Yeah, he just said it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
he was asked what was the craziest UFO story or UFO information he's been exposed to. And Gates didn't say he believed.
Gotcha.
He said the craziest thing was when an officer came in or a man in an Army uniform came in and gave him his testimony about that breeding program.
And the UFO Clippers just turned that thing into gospel. It's like, you know, this is what he said.
Just wild, because remember it was Boebert, I think, at the last congressional hearing actually asked about it.
Yeah, what's crazy is that, like, Matt Gaetz talked about all this stuff when he was on Tubi with Jeremy Corbell. Like over a year ago. And nobody cared. And then he goes on this podcast that's kind of more, like, political, and then it, like, turns into news. So I just found that funny.
Yeah, what's it? Newsmax was doing it, so that's cable news, I guess. It's a little bit different than podcast, but it's being picked up and it's being shared around, and so is Burchett's quotes. I mean, Burchett's comment about it was, "I can't talk about that. I'm still in Congress." He said, "But I was briefed 2 weeks ago with things that would would shake the world. It would shake the world if they know what I know. And he said, just make it public. He said, I told President Trump, just make it all public. So we'll see.
I hope he does.
Shake the world, huh?
Well, he's shaking the world as it is. He might as well go all the way. I mean, I don't think we're paying attention, but we are absolutely in World War III. The Russians started conflict in Estonia, and one linkage, and Article 5 is invoked. I mean, I think people are not paying attention, and we are in a turmoil all over the world.
Here's one thing that I also think about with the Burchett thing is you would think if he was briefed, right? Like Burchett's not in these committees. He's not in like the Senate Arms Committee and shit. Like he's, you know what I'm saying? Like he's just, like in Congress, just like a lot of these other guys. So why doesn't anybody else in Congress give a shit? Like if these guys are getting briefings on life-changing information and shit that is like putting people's hair on fire and is, you know, would make people go crazy, why doesn't anybody else in Congress give a shit? Why aren't they like, yo, you guys need to you need to get in this briefing. There's fucking alien breeding programs, bro. Like we need to get in here and get the, you know, I don't feel like there's any of that. It's just Luna, Burchett, and Burleson and Moscovich, and that's it. Like that's the only people who care.
Look, as I've said this a number of times, and I'm not trying to be an asshole. They are backbenchers. They're early. They don't have any committee chairs or subcommittee chairs. None of them. They have no actual power.
Yeah, no subpoena power, nothing. Yep.
The people that have power run committees and chairs. And so
Chad is in charge of the Doge follow-on. He has access to all the financials. He knows a lot that we may not know.
Well, if he has access to those financials, he has access to every financial record that belongs to the United States government, including our personal ones.
I said they've targeted Arrow, you know, so they've publicly called him out. Luna's like, hey, Burchett, should we get rid of Arrow? I'm like, fucking do it already. Like, what are you tweeting about it for? Like, you guys should have already done it. We've already known Burchett was the chairman now of Doge. Like, I tweeted, I was like, the next day Burchett was chairman of Doge. Like, the next day I would have gone to Arrow and been like, okay, guys, pull up the books. Let's fucking see what you guys are doing.
Wait, didn't Matt Brown just say the reason he got fired was because of Doge? Don't you think Burchett could possibly look into that or something?
I am not sure how much crowbar access Doge has. They have access to maybe confidential financial records, but they're not going to have access to the classification guide and what it covered.
Astral also, like, we'll never know, but I'd be curious, like, who the hell's briefing these guys? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. Like, are these classified briefings, or are you talking to Stephen Greer?
Well, no, they stated explicit. Look, but there are in the office buildings, down in the basement, but in the basement below the Senate cafeteria, etc. There are secure facilities where guards are there, everybody's credentials are checked, and you have to go in those places to be briefed about classified information.
It's like the John Harrington situation. You know, the John Harrington, yeah.
How that works, but couldn't you go into a skiff with unclassified information and now it becomes classified because of the context?
No, that's just not how it works. It could be chosen for other reasons that they were not aware of to classify, but the classification security officer reading the classification guide would have to determine it. But if it was already public information, it's really hard to figure out how to. Yeah, what you can do is classify it for internal use, and they can never comment on it again outside.
I wonder if that happened to anybody that went into Arrow that said, "Oh, like here's my story," and then Arrow, like I didn't hear anybody that said that. That Arrow was like, "Oh, you can't say that. That's classified."
Every person I know that went in there, they actually stood a chance to talk to anybody. They shoved a non-disclosure agreement classifying everything they said in front of them, and many of them signed.
Would you say, Para, that Mike Herrera said something?
No, I thought that's what Whistling Mike said. Is that he went to them?
All Arrow was a catch and kill operation.
That I agree with, and Whistling Mike refused to sign.
Right, and that's what caused all this issue, or his issue.
I heard other people say the same thing. Like once they went into a skiff with Arrow, right? I don't know who said this, and I'll trust Bob on this, but like whatever you said in a skiff became classified, right?
That's just not true. The context and the circumstances determine what. If I go in there and talk about the greatest cup of coffee I ever drank, that's not going to be classified.
Yeah, but if you talked about how you saw a UFO while you were drinking the greatest cup of coffee.
Seeing a UFO is not a classified event.
But couldn't people request
how the United States government officially deals with such a thing? That would be classified.
Right. My original comment though wasn't about how classified briefings happen. It was, are these people being briefed in classified situations, or are they having waffles at Waffle House with Stephen Greer and talking about these things?
Well, the stories that I've listened to are the ones where they claim they went into a secure facility and got a classified briefing. I believe those because they were explicit. The bar skiff and the IHOP skiff and the Waffle House skiff doesn't count. Because if you discuss classified information in those places, you have committed a crime.
But even in a classified setting, intelligence can be reports with claims, right? Like you could go into this skiff and you're like, our investigation has people that claim this, people that claim that. It's not always like, well, now that you're in the skiff, everything we're about to talk about is true and proven. It isn't like that, right? It is.
But we didn't have people, like, here's my main point with the Arrow stuff is we didn't have people, if everybody requested their memorandum of record, which was agreed upon going into it, that you could request your memorandum of record of the conversation that happened. Like, there was only a handful of people that actually did that. And I think what I was thinking was going to happen is somebody was going to go in and say, this is what I told Arrow. This is what they should have confirmed. This is what they didn't confirm. And this is what I can prove that they didn't confirm. But nobody could actually do that.
But Bob, what you were saying is like, if they went in, they were asked to sign an NDA. And if they did that, that essentially made whatever they said classified. Is that correct?
I don't know. Did anybody confirm that they signed an NDA?
Yes, several people signed NDAs, and that forbade them from talking. So,
can you name any names on that, Bob?
The reason I won't name them is I don't have firsthand information, and so I'm giving you a good old boy. I heard this story. I don't want to do that. But I was told that a bunch of these people that I know went in there and talked, and they had to sign NDAs before Arrow would take their story.
Yo, what up, y'all? I heard that too. Didn't Dylan Borland say that they classified his drawings? Like he sketched out some craft or something, and then I swear it was Borland. I could be mistaken.
Borland had signed the NDA. I don't remember the details. And just so people know, I never heard Borland's name until he was on TV.
Yeah, I want to say that he said he sketched out what he saw, and I want to say it was with Arrow. Could be wrong. But the drawings of whatever he drew were then classified after he had that meeting.
Didn't he say that on the weaponized episode? I think you're right.
I think it was. I could be wrong.
That's probably the most likely one place for us to find it. But, there is so much stuff on now, and I'm working so hard, I ain't got time to look at it all.
Experience, you watch the Lazar thing yet?
I'm not a big Lazar guy, but I'll probably rent it tomorrow since I'm off and shit.
I'm waiting for that Rogan episode.
Astral, you say it's worth it? Like, is the production good?
There's a lot of AI stuff, bro. But I think that's why it might have been delayed, is to be able to tell the story visually that they wanted to. It had to use a lot of the AI stuff because I don't know how else you would have been able to tell it.
Well, I mean, we've seen a documentary like a year ago that Gravatar put out, and they brought Bob in and put virtual reality goggles on him and had him look around the room and say, "Is this right?" And he did a lot of stuff. And so, yeah, AI and VR were involved in this big time.
I mean, as a UFO guy, I think it was interesting to see the video. I wasn't that much up to date on a lot of the Lazar stuff of the specific story itself. So it was interesting to see and kind of get up to speed on everything with the Lazar stuff. So in that regard, I think it's worth it. But is it something that is lasting with me, or I'm yo, that shit was crazy? Nah, not really. Be honest.
Astral, did they talk about the seedy side of things? I mean, was it a fanboy thing, or did they actually do a balanced approach to his story?
I think it's pretty balanced. They bring in some things that I didn't consider before of the timeline of, I didn't realize John Lear was as involved in it, and a lot of the stories within of the description of the sports model and his experiences there and the S4 base. I just hadn't looked into the case like that. So it was good to get, kind of a real in-depth view of the case itself and how Lazar got introduced to S4 and all of the stuff, how he got the job and working through that and all this stuff through with all of these guys who were shown the spot with the Area 51 and shit. So it was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Did they go over his legal problems?
No, they didn't do any controversial stuff. I think they kind of let his emotions play out from his perspective, but they didn't really dive into any of the controversial stuff.
So no Bunny Ranch, dude?
No.
Sorry, Honeysuckle Ranch. That's what it was.
Astral, is that
was the legal one, though.
Is that undeniable proof Luigi talked about, that picture that's going around of the doors or whatever?
Yeah, was that scene compelling?
Yes, the S4 thing. I'm kind of, I'm back and forth on it because he talked about this hangar door and built into the mountain, and the aspect of it where there was these 9 hangar doors. I'm not gonna lie, that part is kind of interesting to me. And then to see this photo that's being shared around and these arrows that are pointing to basically 8 or 9 hangar doors that could be made out, is it conclusive? Absolutely not. It's some paranoia type of shit.
Shit like that, man. Show me a video of the fucking thing opening and a fucking craft flying out of it. Other than that, I'm not gonna be
right. It's honestly picture. Some random video random photo that they found of some guy who just took a bunch of photos, and they're well, 5 years ago they took this, and if you pull the contrast up to 100,000, you can see that there's these doors that you could make out, and it's damn, bro, this is such a stretch to then preview this as 100% conclusive evidence. I don't know.
I just shared the unaltered, unzoomed original photo in the nest.
Yeah.
In my opinion, those straight lines that you see in the zoomed, altered version are just camera or artifacts, like pixelation.
I mean, like,
artifacts.
even if this photo is real, so it just proves that there's a built-in hangar in the mountain. Gives a fuck. They probably had that shit all over the country.
Well, they definitely do. The number of entrances and exits at the Hill Air Force Base in Utah, good God. And I can take you to one in Arizona and let you watch them open and close it, fly out of it.
I don't really know of one with like aircraft hangars, but I certainly know of a facility in West Virginia inside of a mountain that I've had family go to.
For trucks and shit, for shit to go out on vehicles, right?
When he explains the other craft there, though, it's pretty interesting. He says he saw 2 other craft at the S4 base when they opened up all the hangars. So he said there was 9 hangars. That's what I was looking at, because I'm like, oh, like this photo, there's these doors that they're trying to make out are there. And Lazar says specifically there's 9 different hangars and doors. So I was looking in the photo that they tried to bring out, there's like 8 arrows pointing to different doors. But it is interesting in the film when he's like, there's these other craft. This other one was like this like pound cake, you know, this like mushroom kind of cake that's there. He said that was there. And then in another hangar, there was this like top hat looking craft, but it was like leaning against the wall and there was a shot through it. So like something shot it down or some shit. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
You know, I've listened to probably most, if not all, of Bob's interviews, and I don't know if I've heard that. The leaning against the thing with
I remember from the book, I think, or even Rogan's interview, but I could remember it. Yeah,
that might make, yeah.
So, question: what do you guys make of the request that was sent to Hegseth of all these videos? I don't know if the request is to classify them, to declassify them. There's like a pretty long list. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Luna.
Yeah, Luna sent that letter, right?
Yeah, I think it was Luna, right?
It was like 46 specific videos she was wanting declassified.
It's a pretty long list. I would like to take a look at those.
Where does she get the file names from? That's what I want to know.
I mean, that's the story right there, though, right?
Where did you hear about file names?
Well, she named each one of them specifically. Like, where does she get the names from?
Like the kids' names. Like the UAP over, which one of the Great Lakes was it?
Huron, wasn't it?
Yeah. I have a good look on this. Let me find it.
I think most likely they got them from Grush.
Yeah, I was going to say Grush or any other witnesses that they came in and interviewed.
I didn't realize these were file names. I like tweeted her letter and I didn't realize those were like actual file names. So I'm just going to put this out there mainly for Bob and Pix, or really anyone, but I interviewed Luis Cayetano today, who's like I feel like one of the true skeptics. Like, he's open to there being like a paranormal NHI source behind UFOs. Like, he's not close to that, right? He's not just like trying to debunk every single thing. But, you know, he has his own biases in some ways. But yeah, the idea, one of the things he said in my interview that I thought was really interesting was sort of like the UFO topic being used, right, as sort of a red herring or a distraction. His words, not mine. Like, not that these people specifically have anything to hide, but basically like members of Congress sort of signaling to their constituents and to the public that they are open and transparent, and they're demanding transparency on UFOs for a certain reason, right? And sort of what he alluded to was like, maybe there are other things that those individual Congress members are not being transparent about. But if they can like feign, being advocates of transparency on UFOs, even if they know like there's nothing really there, then that can kind of like let them off the hook in a certain way. It's an interesting theory, I guess, if nothing else.
Yeah, that kind of virtue signaling goes on all the time. Look what's happening with religion in general, why they're diddling kids. Same thing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take it there, but yes, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if there's nothing the government really has to like disclose, then it would make a lot of sense to use the UFO topic to like signal that you're for transparency, right? When there's really nothing there. If you're trying to cover up something else for maybe not even for yourself, but for someone else.
See, this is the political part of the UFO world we're in right now. And I've called this out from the beginning, especially when it comes to politicians. You hear them say it. We need to be transparent for the American people, and fist pumping. And the American people are supposed to say, yeah, fuck yeah, we need transparency. Give us the UFO shit. Yeah, I'm fighting along with you. I'm fighting a good fight, guys. We already know politicians want popularity and to be in the position that they're in, to be able to have access to do other shit. That's a given to me. What I'm not buying is the conspiracy that it's all bullshit. I'm not buying the fact that we have more than enough people behind the scenes and public that are talking about this stuff. And people just want to say there's nothing to see here. It's all bullshit. I'm not buying that.
I'm not buying that either. The idea that the government has a whole bunch of stuff that they're not revealing, I do question that. I don't think there's anything wrong with questioning that.
Well, there's a control mechanism, and it's controlled by corporations as much as those within the government that know something. And it's a mess, and we're getting zoomed. And we're not going to get next generation energy tech. That's the holy grail that they're protecting at all costs. They have stuff. We paid for it. Fuck them.
I think they're going to slow walk this as painfully as possible. As much as they can delay this, they're going to try and do it. And I'm just saying that, like a pressure cooker, like a dam that has holes in it, it's inevitable shit's going to come out. How slow and how fast is how fast they could try and cover shit up as shit is coming out. That's kind of where I'm at with a lot of this stuff. Like, when that article dropped, and I was like, oh, okay, finally, somebody from the government's talking about this shit. Oh, more credible people are talking about it. Oh, military pilots are talking about it now. Oh, there's people in the intelligence community talking about it. Yeah, there's a shit ton of people that are around this stuff now. Enough to where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to wait for it to play out. You know?
The more they create chaos, the more they get to hide shit.
Hey, just a reset and heads up. I'm going to reveal the target for the remote viewing here in about 10 minutes. So if anybody's waiting on that, I always kind of slack on the reveal. So 10 minutes on that. Like and share the space. Love discussion. Great panel we got up here. Feel free to jump up. I saw the Bob Lazar documentary. Feel free to jump up and join the discussion. Give your thoughts on that too. Paranormal, got your hand up. What's up, bro?
Yeah, I was going to say to Kimball, like, I listened to your interview earlier, at least the majority of it, when I was on a walk, and one of the topics that the fellow that you were interviewing brought up that I thought was really interesting was he was talking about kind of like the sociology of ufology, and in regards to like what we were just talking about with like these particular characters that politicians that are involved in this topic and are very gung-ho about it. The one thing that I notice with this specifically, like, Luna and Burchett and Burleson, is that they all pretty heavily lean towards the religious kind of lens to view this topic from. And the whole kind of topic of disclosure in and of itself has this kind of like mirroring or like there's a similarity to like Christian eschatology. So like this idea that when we reveal these secrets, that there's going to be some kind of global change. The power structures are going to change, and that we're going to get free energy, and that everything's going to be better. Like, it just seems really reminiscent of the types of things that you hear from religious views of how the world is supposed to be at a certain point in time because of some world-changing event.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just thought that was a really interesting topic, and to me, I find it also interesting that these people who, the ones that are the most gung-ho in politics, also seem to be viewing this from a religious lens. And then I believe when Burleson was in that space with Tupa, he was even talking about there's this man who runs some kind of church that's located somewhere near Washington, D.C., and he has these contacts with what he considers to be NHI. But this church is like a Christian church, and that he made it sound like it was pretty influential in Washington. So I don't know what's going on with that, but that seems pretty interesting too, that there's maybe people that have a certain belief system where they're kind of blending Christianity with the lore that is in ufology or in paranormal
Well, it
studies.
serves the demonic, proposition, which helps the national security, MIC, continue to get funding.
Very true. So that was a point I meant to push back on. He kind of he was going pretty, he was jumping around to other topics, and I honestly just forgot to like push back on this point. But, he does, I guess, he comes from like a certain political persuasion, and that's fine. But it's not like it's just religious, social conservative members of Congress that are making these noises, right? Like, he left out Schumer, he left out Gillibrand, so I think.
Yeah, but they're not the ones going on podcasts.
Well, they're not anymore, right? But the Schumer amendment itself was like pretty big.
In fact, I would take Gillibrand pretty seriously, but some of the antics that I feel that characters like Burleson and Burchett and Luna have been up to just kind of seem whimsical.
I think you bring up an interesting point, though, because it makes you think about, let's say there is some kind of form of disclosure, like, how will that be framed? Will it be framed how it should be, or will it be framed by what they believe, or, it makes you wonder.
I think, let me jump in real quick, if you don't mind. I think people who are more religious are more inclined to adjust their worldview, and even be loud about it to make sense of it all than people who aren't so religious. Certainly if I were in government and I saw things, and this is speculation, of course, but if I saw things and I was very rooted in my religion, which personally I'm not to say I'm not spiritual, but religious, right? Following a specific story, and I don't know. I feel like I'd be inclined to be loud about it or do something about it. Let people know. I don't know that I'm exactly explaining my angle right, but
I think the JD Vance thing to me is a little bit concerning, where JD Vance comes out and he's like, "Oh, the aliens, I think maybe are demons," but if you look at the statements before, he's like, he basically wanted to try and seem like he was a UFO enthusiast. Like, I'm into this topic, but I haven't even looked into it at all. And I'm thinking, like, damn, bro, like, you got the access. You can actually look into these files, and you haven't done it, but you're still going to give an opinion on what you think it is, even though it's not even well researched.
Yeah. So, Probe Space, you're saying that, like, religious people are more likely to adjust their beliefs? Like,
I think no. I think religious people would be more likely to ground whatever it is they're taking in with some form of disclosure to their religious beliefs. And I
Okay,
don't
so
think that's,
adjust
I
the
don't think that's
information to fit
unreasonable.
their beliefs.
I don't think that's unreasonable, though, right? I mean, the origin story for all the different religions is pretty similar. So,
well, in my journalism classes in college, like we learned like the War of the Worlds case, right? Where the Orson Welles had that broadcast, right? And they stated at the beginning this was like a theatrical thing, but a lot of people tuned into this radio show and they assumed it was like a real news broadcast and the aliens were attacking the world. And they did studies on that afterward. And it was, I want to say it was like close to 70%, 67% of the people who actually believed this was like an alien invasion were also religious. So I do think they're more likely to believe, if that means anything.
The Brookings Institute did a study on it. I think it was like 50 years ago, and it said that disclosure would be very harmful for society. But, you know, it's very reasonable to presume there's a bunch of different agendas going on simultaneously, different groups with different motives, obviously trying to conceal, you know, black projects. Obviously, some things might be a fly trap for foreign intelligence. Other aspects may be real mysteries. And it's such a cumbersome topic especially for a politician. But I think, you know, one of the most important aspects of this is that this topic is really important. I think it's really important for humanity's trajectory, no matter how shocking it is. You know, Galileo shocked society by inverting our perspective of our place in the universe. So I think, you know, the importance of this comes through with a lot of people. I think there's also a chance too, those videos might have come through maybe Chris Mellon, maybe, you know, participants in OSAP. You know, I think that's conceivable. But the descriptions on those videos is really interesting. Some of them are Tic Tacs, some are orbs. I think it's safe to presume there's a lot of shit going on.
There's a cigar-shaped one. There's some by the Columbus airport. It's like, yeah, it's what?
Yeah, I want to see those. But just go back to your point about the majority of people that are maybe religious looking at it through religious eyes. Just makes logical sense that that's what they would go to first. Science doesn't address this, right? Where's their talk of NHI and any other realm other than religion? You know what I'm saying? In science, they're talking about potential microbes and shit being extraterrestrial. That's fine. It doesn't address any kind of interaction that's happening here.
I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You guys have a great evening.
Later, Bob.
Later, Bob.
Good night, Bob. Experience, like, on the topic of science, one of the things that Gary Nolan has kind of talked about, like, but he never really went further into it, is this idea of a shadow biome. And this idea that there's like maybe organisms that exist in a space that we can't quite see because we don't have the perceptual apparatus, because our organs aren't designed to perceive these things. Does that make any sense?
Real quickly, if I could, on that, Para, that's a good point. Last night there was a conversation about what's the nature of reality. Are we in a simulation? Anyway, long story short, as Muddy Penny said, that we can perceive 10% of the visual spectrum. It actually is 0.0035%. There's tons of shit that we're not fucking picking up on. And there could be beings that are scooting by us right now, and we just don't see it.
Yeah, I agree. Like stuff like the shadow biome, and that's cool. But that was like literally within this decade that people talked about this, right? So what I'm saying is, like, science hasn't really chipped away at this NHI thing, other than the fact that there might be potential microbes in the cosmos somewhere that would be some form of life.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of go back. It's not really science. It's kind of pseudoscience. You can go back to like the Fortean stuff, like the Charles Fort stuff, and then later like the Borderlands Science Foundation and stuff like that with Mead Lane. And but like,
let me throw something out real quick.
But yeah, it's not real science.
Let me throw something out real quick that is real science. So, you know, there's a lot of people that would say that the quantum effect is, you know, the plasma ether And I tend to believe that not only is that there, but it probably is sentient in its own right. I think the sun has a certain sentience. I think the earth has a certain sentience. So there's a whole lot of inputs that we just don't have a clue about.
I agree. So I guess my thought process along the lines of how this should be studied, maybe through academia, is that there's a lot of theories out there that we could look up and read papers on. But is it taught at school? Is there a class specifically on it? Are the professors teaching this? We're not there yet. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Para, I'm just curious. What's your take on like remote viewing, those sort of pseudosciences?
Well, parapsychology, I mean, there's more evidence for parapsychology than there is for UFOs. They're just hands down.
Facts. So, well, no, I think
there's scientific studies and peer-reviewed studies. There's plenty of studies for parapsychology. There really isn't very many great studies.
No, yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I don't disagree with that. So, are you open to the idea that it's possibly a thing, remote viewing?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm. It's weird because most people look at me as like a skeptic or a debunker, but I'm actually a lifetime experiencer with paranormal stuff, and that's why I'm so skeptical when I hear people make certain claims, because it just doesn't add.
No, I mean you sound like a critical thinker for sure, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. So back to the remote viewing thing. What do you think is the most likely medium of communication for that, if it's a thing? And is there any chance that that's tied to what we were talking about before, this whole NHI layer, this fact that we see such a little fragment of reality, right?
I mean, I honestly don't know. Like, I don't think I can know, like, what the medium is that allows these things to happen. Perhaps it has something to do with like frequency dynamics that we just don't quite understand yet. I don't know. You know, electromagnetism or scalar waves, or, you know, like all these other things with the Orgon, the Wilhelm Reich shit. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different, or the morphogenetic field. You know what I mean? Like there's all these different explanations for basically the exact same.
The trouble is there's some really solid observations in parapsychology that suggest that the mechanism has to be non-local and superluminal, which means it can't be electromagnetic in nature. Everything electromagnetic in nature is confined to sea and confined to locality. And so if those results are, if Joe McGonigal remote viewed Mars a million years ago, that's not electromagnetic in nature.
Right, that would have to be more like quantum entanglement, right?
Yeah,
something like
It has to be non-local and electromagnetic in nature. Is that what you said?
Not electromagnetic.
Not electromagnetic in nature.
Okay. And why is that?
Yeah, because
everything in electromagnetism is confined to operate at the speed of light as a maximum, and to be what's called local and causal. And there are observations and claims as part of parapsychology that they may not necessarily be correct, but I mean, they're a fairly strong part of the corpus of all claims to do with remote viewing and things that are both non-local and instantaneous, and that would break those rules.
Who's talking right now? I don't see a mic.
Missile Man.
Yeah, I was gonna say get Missile Man up here. So okay, I mean that's a good explanation.
To answer your question, Probe, though, like my answer wouldn't be scientific. My answer would probably come forth from like a metaphysical interpretation or like a philosophical view. And so my personal belief is the reason why paranormal experiences and strange things and high strangeness happens is because we live in a world of cause and effect, but there also is, for some reason, things that happen without cause. And why? We don't know. But so to me, I believe there is kind of a yin and yang of the universe. And sometimes, every once in a while, there's a thing that happens without a cause. It doesn't need to have something to precede it to happen.
A comment on the shadow biome notion. I'm not anti, but the conversations around perception that focus a lot on human perception are really limiting, because we have a lot of synthetic instrumentation that is dramatically more sensitive than the human senses. And for basically the bar for shadow biome to be a thing is a lot higher than just to say, well, humans can only perceive 0.1% of the visual. Okay, so what, right? We still have infrared cameras and X-ray cameras and ultra infrasound detectors and all this kind of thing. Like, we have a really high level of perception with instrumentation versus human senses.
Could we not dial that stuff in though? I'm thinking, like, when I hear shadow biome, I just think of us piercing the wall of where ghosts or some other thing that happens or lives in a dimension that we can't really see. We'll catch glimpses on it on your fucking Tesla car or something, or some weird camera angle seeing a apparition move in the shape of a body. Like,
or a microscope, right?
Something like that, right? Like, isn't there something that we can dial in that we just haven't dialed in yet?
Well, so like with the microscope thing in Missile Man, if you don't mind, I want your take on this. So I think about this often. We try to study the fabric of reality, and we have these particle accelerators and things that can get us really, really zoomed in and honed in on that. But to get down to a level where we see what's underneath all of that, you'd rip a hole in space-time, right? I mean, you'd blow up the whatever it is you're trying to view by the act of viewing it. That's how much power it would take, right? So
not necessarily.
Well, like, how would you see past the Planck scale?
It's more about so the purpose for inventing electron microscopes was that the minimum wavelength of an electron is much smaller than that of a visible light photon. So there's a theoretical limit to how magnified of an optical microscope you can build. It's something like 5,000x or something. Whereas with scanning electron microscopes, it's millions and millions and millions of times. And that's because electrons are going to bounce off of materials, off of atoms, and you can collate that image in such a high fidelity manner. There's like a million different kinds of scanning electron microscopes that are doing all kinds of insane tricks with math and physics to get you this insane level of fidelity. But I guess the question you're asking is, like, how far down can you push it? Well, ultimately, it's a question of what your detection instrument is. The electron. It's the electron that you're throwing at matter, watching it bounce off, and detecting it come off and what it does. There's also X-rays. We're also having, a lot of times you throw X-ray spectroscopies where you throw an electron at a material and you throw it at it hard enough with enough energy that you actually bump an electron in an atom out of an orbital with your incident electron, and the orbital you bump it out of is so high energy it actually emits an X-ray, and you have a detector sitting there waiting for that, and you detect that X-ray, and it tells you something about the crystal that you just futzed with. So anyway, the answer to your question is, it's not so much a matter of power as it's a matter of frequency and about the how tiny you can get the wavelength of the particles. So if you could build an instrument, a telescope, a microscope, whatever, out of some other particle that is easy to manufacture, easy to emit and detect, other than an electron, something even lighter, like a neutrino or something, then yeah, you could do like insane, amazing observations. But the electron is crazy easy to make and crazy easy to manipulate. Nothing else is yet, right?
At some point, it's no longer an engineering problem, though, right? I mean, it has to be.
I don't think I agree with that. I mean, we're kind of speaking in hypotheticals, but I don't really agree. I don't think it's ever going to be not an engineering problem.
That's encouraging. Yeah, that's cool.
Can you specify again, one more time, what you're defining as the shadow biome and your reason for believing that, your source for?
Yeah, I guess that's a good question. I don't really have a concrete definition. I guess to Experience's comment a minute ago, if we don't mean something electromagnetic in nature, if we're talking about the limits of perception, but we don't mean infrared and ultraviolet and X-ray, we don't mean that stuff. We mean all we've ever been able to do astronomy with is photons until the LIGO experiment. It was the very first time we'd ever did astronomy with anything other than photons, and all of a sudden it was gravity waves. If there's yet another paradigm that we are incapable of sensing with and is needed to see this other thing, then that's very much in play. I think that would be a reasonable opinion to take. It's just kind of metaphysical. It's kind of meta.
But but it has to be beyond perception, and you're getting this from the lore.
Well, I guess I'm saying if there were a shadow biome that were electromagnetic in nature, it's hard to argue that we would not have detected it so far, and that it would be very hard to hide from, research groups all over the world. It would have to be non-electromagnetic to have escaped notice readily.
What about mRNA or like a virus?
What do you mean?
I'm just, would that fit your limitations there, your standard?
I don't think so. I mean, there's this wicked episode of Stargate SG-1 where they bring this device, then they open it, it starts emitting radiation that allows them to see all these creatures that they've never seen before. If by shadow biome we mean we can make up some sci-fi terms that are like, oh, they're out of quantum phase. That's just a made-up phrase. But if that's a thing, then sure, you could have life forms that are quote unquote out of phase, but that's not real. But something like that, if it turned out to be real, I guess.
That was kind of Mead Lane's ether ships theory back in the before Roswell, actually, back in 1945. He thought that UFOs, the reason why they were so elusive is because their vibratory rate, that they would vibrate at a certain frequency that was beyond our ability to perceive it, but every once in a while it would slow its oscillation or something and it would become perceptible and then eventually just blink out into the nothingness.
Sure. I mean, if we're talking about real physical vibration, there's kind of no such thing as quote unquote vibrating out of our perception. That doesn't alter whether an object is visible, Right.
You have to realize this guy was inspired by theosophy.
Yeah, I hear you.
So.
If we don't mean physical vibration, this gets into the shit I bitch about all the time, the overuse and misuse of the words frequency and energy and vibration, because they mean certain things in physics and science, and they get used in a way where the person doesn't really mean it that way. They mean it in some other sort of metaphysical way, and I get that. That's perfectly fine, but it's just misleading because there's multiple meanings.
Yeah, those are the key buzzwords, Missile Man. You don't take those away. Everybody will
sound frequency and vibration, right?
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say, and I think it's what you kind of covered, Missile Man, is that I feel like when it comes to instruments that we utilize to perceive things that are beyond human perception, there first needs to be a layer of human ingenuity. There has to be the want to look for something beyond, and then you would have to develop the device to do that.
I agree,
so,
and we don't follow people around with those instruments either. That's actually why I think the thing at Skinwalker Ranch, the little device that Jim Segala designed, where they the experiencers carried around with them everywhere,
the Moopos, yeah,
a neat idea because, yeah, I mean, sure, I'm right. There's these insane instruments, but we don't cart them around all day and say, I wonder if there was a gravity distortion near me when I had that funny feeling. You know what I mean? We don't technically do that.
You have to have a control too. So if you're gonna measure an experiencer all day, you have to have them just going normal, doing normal things. And then when this anomalous experience happens, you have to be able to capture it as compared to something else. Wait, we got the Bob Lazar up here. Bob is here.
Oh my God, Bob Lazar. I've been a huge fan for so long. I believe every word. Welcome.
Get off not to UFO intros.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm gonna join you guys in a few minutes, if that's cool.
Bob sounds a little different, I remember.
He's big leaguing us right now. That's Bob Lazar through and through.
I like the new accent, Bob. It's a good choice.
Hey, my man's going on Rogan. He's got to prepare.
Is he going on Rogan with Luigi, or is he just going on Rogan by himself?
I wonder if he's going on Rogan with Jesse.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, it would. I have no idea.
I was about to ask, are you asking that question because you might know?
No. And if I asked him, he wouldn't tell me if he was.
He better go on with Luigi, man.
If he goes on with Jesse, that means that Jesse would be next.
Wait, hasn't Jesse already been on the Joe Rogan Experience?
Oh,
I mean, Lazar on Jesse. Michael shit.
So do we think this is coming out tomorrow, the Rogan episode? I think it's coming tomorrow. Like we're gonna get that shit.
Was there anything? I haven't watched it yet. Man, I just reserve. I'll wait till I see it.
I can't lie. The marketing is confusing to me about the documentary. I feel like as much as this has been coming up, this should have been marketed like crazy.
Do you think it was prolonged because of like a distribution thing? Like he was trying to figure out who he was gonna like actually distribute it for or through?
Was it that, or he's trying to get the VR experience thing nailed down?
Yeah, I thought it was more like tech roadblocks, as I understand it. And it was a lot of CGI too, initially. I mean, they probably could have cranked it a lot faster if they had done it or started it, within the last year, but...
Where'd you get it?
Hey, what's up?
Is it on Amazon or Apple TV?
Yeah, Prime. Amazon Prime.
What's up, Astral? How you doing, bro?
What's up, man?
Yeah, thanks for bringing me up, man. How's everyone doing?
We're celebrating. So it's Lazar weekend.
Yeah. I mean, has anybody watched the documentary yet?
I think a couple people. I mean, I've already seen it, but I don't know who else.
I have it on right now. I'm about a third of the way through it.
What was your overall takeaway, Astral? Like, slam dunk, opposite of slam dunk? Like, any new info on Lazar?
If you're familiar with the story, probably not. So I thought there were some interesting nuggets in there that I took away. It was interesting to learn about the story, kind of very detailed and sifting through it. So, I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of AI shit, which I actually can appreciate of why it maybe took a little bit longer to put together. But I liked it.
I'm more curious about the Rogan interview. Like, what are they going to talk about? He's already told his story, so...
Wasn't there meant to be like some kind of undeniable evidence in the documentary? Did that come out, or did you get to see that, Astral?
Yeah, you get to see him taking bong rips from Element 115.
Dude, that Muscovium.
Wouldn't that be the smoking gun though, right? Like if he has this Element 115 hidden like he claims he does, and like Corbell said he got raided for, which isn't true, but if he had that, couldn't he just bust that out in the middle of a documentary and have a couple scientist people like examine it or whatever, and then that would be it, like, right? Everyone would believe Bob.
It would be kind of non-trivial to confirm that that's really what it is. Like you could produce a little mini doc around the testing and whatnot that you would do, but you would still kind of be taking this, whoever the technicians are on screen doing testing, you'd kind of be taking their word for it as an observer. But yeah, you could.
So let me ask you this, Miss Amanda, because everything around 115 is that it's unstable and it's only stable for like milliseconds or something before it deteriorates.
Yeah.
Do we ever see a possibility where that can be stabilized somehow?
This is a very popular question / controversial question, because there was this theory going back to the 60s called islands of stability. A lot of people know the story already, where we don't really understand what's called the nucleon chart. And actually, I wish Ether Dias was here because he could explain this a lot better. He's a PhD in material science, and we don't really understand the math behind which nuclei are stable and which ones aren't. It's not. It's even in terms of nuclear theory, it's not straightforward. There's a lot of isotopes that shouldn't be stable that are, and isotopes that aren't stable that if those ones followed a certain rule would be, and all of that. So whenever you make a given atomic number of element, there might be something like 6 or 8 or 12 different isotopes, because you can add or subtract neutrons from the one that you made. There's no like one element that is that element. They are all that element because it's based on proton count and electron count. It's just you can add or subtract neutrons. But atoms are generally stable if there's a roughly equal number of protons and neutrons. Roughly. It does vary. So beyond a certain atomic number, it's not actually 92, which is uranium. Uranium is the heaviest element that occurs naturally on Earth. But beyond 92, there are still some elements that we can make which are sort of stable, because sort of meaning for like months or years they have a half-life of, but they're still radioactive and they decay quite quickly. But there are no elements beyond, I want to say like 104 or 102 that are stable for like months or years, to where you could fabricate a solid chunk of it and just sit around with it. And the broad answer to your question is, not only is there no way to quote unquote stabilize 115, there's no way to stabilize anything. When we say unstable, we mean it decays, it nuclear decays, and we can't stop that. That's just a force of nature.
Gotcha.
I like the way you explain things, Mr. Man. Are you a scientist, or tell us your background, bro?
Yeah. I have a bachelor's in mathematics, a master's degree in aerospace engineering. All my graduate work was in plasma physics, and I'm currently pursuing a PhD in material science. And I've worked in defense R&D for almost 20 years. So yeah.
Oh wow. Goodness.
So
That's
speaking,
crazy.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I'm just excited to ask a question. So speaking of materials, Missile Man, what about this layering? Can you explain that to us? This, what you see Nolan talking about with the bismuth and
you're talking about Art's part. Is that right? Art's part?
Is that what it's called? I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was a material dropped off on Art Bell's doorstep or whatever in 1995 that was alleged to be from the Roswell crash material, but no one has any. There's no provenance of the material before it gets to Art Bell, so we have no idea where it really came from. And everybody in this story acknowledges that fact. That's not controversial. There was originally very large chunks of it, and in fact, Art Bell's late widow has, supposedly in the Philippines, really large chunks of it still that nobody has their hands on. What stayed with Art Bell and then went to Linda Moulton Howe and then went to Hal Puthoff and then went to Travis Taylor and then went to TTSA and Nolan and Falcon Space and all this is increasingly smaller and smaller, fragile little pieces, to where I've seen a piece. It's like smaller than a rice grain, and they did a bunch of studies on it. And generally these kinds of studies are called non-destructive inspection, but the piece is so tiny and so old because it's at least from 1995. It's been handled so much. It is falling apart, and you have to actually be really, like, if you sneezed on it, you'd blow it across the room and lose it. Like, it was that little. So anyway, there's a bunch of imagery you can go find of all this layering and whatnot. Here's the thing I want to convey that's important. Metamaterials are synthetic crystalline materials where you do something really interesting with what's called doping, like the way semiconductors are made, computer chips, where you get silicon or germanium and you dope it with another material through like ion deposition. And what that means is you're dumping another element into the same crystal. So if you imagine this crystal lattice in your mind, you've got this grid of atoms of the normal material you started with, and you've now substituted other kinds of elements into that lattice. They share a crystal. That's a doped material, and we've been doing that for 75, 80 years for semiconductors. Take that to the next level of complexity, and you have a metamaterial, either an optical metamaterial or an electronic metamaterial, where you have sandwiched atomic layers or maybe 4 or 5 atomic layers of very custom designed doped materials together, and you get really abnormal effects. These are topological superconductors, quantum qubit materials, strain engineering materials, all this really interesting stuff on the bleeding edge of material science. That is not what Art's part was or is. It's not what it is at all. It is a layering of atomic layers. It's pure atomic zinc, and then pure atomic bismuth, and then pure atomic lead, and pure atomic bismuth in these layers. It's not doped like that. So it's not actually a metamaterial, it's a composite sandwich structure.
And what could be the benefits of that?
All sorts of things. All sorts of things. When the most recent data that is public, and I consulted on a lot of this, these guys brought me in and I looked at, so the guys that were taking the data, so Matt Sadagas with the University of Albany, who is Kevin Knuth's mentee and protege, is a brilliant physicist. He's an actual theoretical physicist, and I'm not. So I had all the credit in the world to him. He did all this data, and it's really good. And then Jared Yates and Falcon Space, they supported. And they took the material to like legit labs. It either went to Oak Ridge or to some other national lab, and they took real data. And then they did some of their own at Albany. And one of the things they found that was interesting is the material doesn't stay neutron activated very long. So when you bombard a material with neutrons by putting it next to a neutron source, like a radioactive sample of californium or uranium or plutonium, you do that because the irradiation of a material and how long it stays activated tells you interesting things about that material. Well, there's certain math that tells you how long a thing should stay activated. And if it doesn't, activated means it's radioactive, means you've irradiated it, you take it away from the source, and it is now radioactive and it continues emitting radioactive particles. That goes on for some period of minutes, hours, days, weeks, whatever. If for some reason it is going on longer than you predicted, or less long than not as long as you predicted, there's something novel going on with the way that it captured neutrons or the way that it reflected neutrons. I don't mean novel in terms of beyond standard model physics, nothing like new forces of nature. I'm just saying an engineered solution that's doing something interesting for some particular purpose. Purpose might be it's the inside of a hydrogen bomb casing. Purpose might be that it's the inside of a nuclear fusion reactor. Purpose might be it's the inside of a spacecraft. Like you just don't know. But it was behaving interestingly with respect to neutron absorption, and that was probably like the most interesting thing it was doing, different than anything else.
I feel so stupid every time Missile Man talks. It's amazing though.
Well, that's unfortunate because that means I'm not doing a very good job.
No, you are. It's just, man, yeah. No, you do fine. You do great, man.
Megan, I saw you jumped up. What's up, Megan?
Hey, yeah, how y'all doing? I came up because y'all were talking about the shadow biome stuff, which is interesting to me. So I think a couple angles there. One is, so like a lot of the theories propose that it's like microbiome, which in terms of like microbes, we've classified an incredibly small number of just like microbes that are even in a normal realm of like investigating stuff. And so I think one of the main theories with the shadow biome is that maybe it would be composed of like molecules with the opposite chirality. So they just wouldn't even interact with, on a biological level, the tests and whatnot that we have. We actually have created a type of sugar that is like the reverse chirality, and it just goes right through you because it just doesn't even interact with normal biology. And then on the like kind of electromagnetic level, which Missile Man is talking about, like I don't think that would necessarily help you with the biological stuff because again, there's just a bunch of noise. But I kind of would wonder about things like, and who knows what you think of like supersymmetry. I'm not necessarily a fan, but like even neutrinos, right? Like we might just not have sensors that are very good at picking up whatever these particles or things that make up the shadow biome could be. Right? So to say like, oh, our sensors would pick it up. Yeah, maybe if it put out an electromagnetic frequency that's on our like spectrum or whatever, sure. But there's other ways around that. And I would also point to maybe Penrose and his whole complex number thing. And that, yeah, there's just a lot of possibilities for that kind of thing that we might not pick up. Anyway, that's all.
So the next interview I'm going to be doing is going to be delving into this theory of the shadow biome. And I think Y-Wolf is down there. I'm not sure if there's space for him to come up, but he's done quite a bit of research on this topic. I hope we could hear him speak. I don't know.
I'll drop down, guys. I'm heading out. Thanks for the chat.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get everybody up. I'm going to try and get some others. Bob, you got your hand up? Jump in here, bro. And buddy, feel free to jump in whenever you want, my bro.
Thank you, brother. Nice to see you, Y-Wolf.
Hey, sorry, in between, I missed whatever Kimball said, so.
I was just saying you're dumb.
Oh,
He said you know all kinds of stuff about the shadow biome, and he'd love to hear what you might have to contribute on the topic.
Oh, well, yeah, we are going
Our next interview, he's not dumb.
Yeah, no, I'll be doing an interview quite soon with Kimball on this topic. Hell
yeah.
Yeah, I think the answers are already in front of us for this. I suspect very strongly that the shadow biome is basically a diversionary form of the origin of life on the planet, and that we've already had a lot of information and evidence presented to us through UFO experiencers and the experts on this topic that point in this direction. So basically, it's an alternative to Darwinian evolution, in the sense that there may be two different origin points with this. And it is RNA based, and RNA is the controlling arm of the entire thing. So we'll be talking about that in the upcoming space with Kimball. And there's a number of very strong tie-ins to this topic through all the things that have happened in the past. So hopefully you guys will look forward to it.
I hope we could get Missile Man there too, because I still don't quite understand sort of your metrics there, Missile Man, is when it comes to like the shadow biome.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't have a super well worked out pedagogy for it. I'd have to kind of think about it. When are you doing this?
It should be about in the next week to 10 days. Yeah, I'm still working out some of the details, but yeah.
Okay. Tentative, Kimball. I got a lot going on next week, but it sounds fun.
Missile Man, did you ever we talked about Ars Parts just a few minutes ago. Did you finish or look at that section that Gary Nolan was talking about with the Uber Tuba stuff? Where he was talking about silicone.
Uber Tuber, what was it?
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, it was really interesting. I need to go back and watch the entire presentation, but yeah, so inside baseball, one of the guys that was on my materials team at UAP Hackathon, brilliant AI developer, from what I understand, invented deepfake technology, actually, the guy. And very young guy, brilliant. And he went on to continue supporting some of those efforts with Nolan because he was local and I'm not. And he discovered that that there were two different chains of custody on Ubatuba materials, and one set is silicon and one set is magnesium, and they were trying to sort that out and figure out if one was a mistake and if one was a mistake. But it sounds like they concluded they're both from the crash. It's just that they're very different from each other. So that's all.
Gotcha. Astral, you're not familiar with the Ubatuba stuff? So I think it was a crash, or it was a craft. I want to say Brazil, and it was leaking.
It was a fisherman, right? And there was a thing off the coast that was like leaking.
Yeah, it was leaking this weird metal shit, and the Ubatuba stuff is what they're calling.
Oh, I think I did hear about that. Yeah.
So Gary Dillon and in that UAP summit, Gary Nolan shit, he talks about it there.
I need to go refresh my memory, but I think that the reason we care is that it's very high purity silicon, and so that's industrially significant, technologically significant, because you had to go out of your way to purify silicon to that purity level back then.
It was the isotopic ratios. I think this is the strongest physical evidence that exists. Because back then to shift those isotopic ratios on this material that Gary Nolan analyzed would have cost back then millions of dollars. So we're talking about like $1 million hoax. Even today would cost tens of thousands. That's what Gary Nolan has said. So yeah, it was the isotopic ratios, if I remember correctly.
Two different answers for two different samples. I just don't remember the order, so I don't want to argue. But one was purity and one was isotopic ratios. And the isotopic ratio issue is the fact that to arrive at a sample with those ratios way off, like meaning. So if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, because this has probably been talked about so many times and nobody explains it, on Earth, anywhere, anywhere on the planet, if you go and you quarry aluminum, you're going to find and then you take it to a lab and you ask the lab, what is the percentage of each different isotope of aluminum in this sample? Because, right, I was talking about isotopes before. It's a different number of neutrons in the nucleus. And so there might be 3 or 4 naturally occurring isotopes of aluminum, but I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but naturally one of them is going to be something like 92% of all aluminum, and then the others are going to be these tiny traces. Well, that signature, that fingerprint of aluminum is same for magnesium, boron, beryllium, whatever. No matter where you get it on Earth, it's pretty tightly within a given range of percentages. It doesn't change by more than a percentage point or 2. There are some UFO material samples where those percentages are wildly off by 9, 8, 10, 15, 18%, which suggests either you mined it on another planet or on another stellar body, it could be from the asteroid belt, whatever, you mined it somewhere other than Earth, or you made it this way on purpose because there's some engineering purpose to doing this. That one's really mysterious. It's really hard to figure out what that might be. Or this happened by way of neutron irradiation, which is possible, but there are other problems with that theory as far as whether that's real. So it's a mystery. It's definitely an anomaly.
Right, so they're leaning more towards that this was something that was potentially manufactured or created, and it's not something that occurs naturally, right?
The ratios being off, you're saying?
Yeah.
I actually think the strongest theory is it was quarried somewhere else. I think that's the most elegant explanation.
Gotcha.
So one thing I would add to that is that it seems like another important element there's like the spatial arrangements of the atoms, and that there's like micron thick layers of different materials, which isotope ratios, yeah, they might be different, but to have that particular spatial arrangement, it's hard to imagine that occurring naturally.
In the case of the arts part sample, you're 100% correct. I should have made this clear earlier. The one thing that is apparent from the arts part sample is that it's not a naturally occurring chunk of rock. It is the way it's layered is certainly evidence that somebody manufactured this on purpose for some reason. I should have made that clear. That's absolutely the case. It was some industrial creation for some reason. But the magnesium stuff from Ubatuba, as far as I know, in fact, arts part is the only purported UFO crash material where technological origin is a slam dunk, or pretty close to a slam dunk. When it comes to Ubatuba and all the others, they're just amorphous chunks of magnesium with a bunch of silicon spackled in and some trace elements. There doesn't appear to be, if you took an Intel chip and you smashed it with a hammer and you lit it on fire and you threw it out the window of your car and somebody looked at it in 100 years, they'd be able to tell that was an engineered device, 100%. We've never seen anything that obvious before. Arts part's the closest thing.
Have you looked into Bruce Fenton and his microtectites that are super high silicon at all?
No, not familiar. Sorry.
It's pretty interesting. I'll say that.
So I was wondering, when like Gary Nolan went with Tim Taylor and Pasolka to that field, and they supposedly got those like pieces of material. Sure. Was that tested, and is there any similarity between those pieces of material and like the arts parts or anything else? Is there any similarities with any of these things, these objects?
I actually don't know the answer to that. There's so many samples in my head swimming around from different stories I've been told. If I was told whether that was tested, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Right on. I have this fan fiction headcanon that Tim Taylor's actually the guy that sent the parts to Art.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Yo, we get some hands up. Let's go to Akasha, Ad Astra, and then back to my boy Bob. Lazar.
What's up, guys? Nice to see you in the mix, as always, Missileman. When you were talking about metamaterials and optics, probably one of my favorite aspects of this whole conversation. I invited you to this UFOX leaders and hosts group chat, and for that reason, I posted this image. It's interesting. You have this array of isosceles triangles, and there's 12 dots in them, but you can never actually see all 12 dots at the same time. Your eye will only register 2 or 3 or 4. it's really fascinating how that works. And I kind of just cheekily commented, aliens, demons, nope, just optics. So you mentioned bismuth earlier. Bismuth is an insanely interesting mineral, specifically because it's the most diamagnetic, the most naturally occurring diamagnetic metal in that we know of. And I'm just going to read this straight from the Wikipedia. It says diamagnetism is a quantum mechanical effect that occurs in all materials. When it is the only contribution to the magnetism, the material is called diamagnetic. In paramagnetic and ferromagnetic substances, the weak diamagnetic force is overcome by the attractive force of magnetic dipoles in the material. The magnetic permeability of diamagnetic materials is less than the permeability of vacuum. In most materials, diamagnetism is a weak effect, which can be detected only by sensitive lab instruments. But a superconductor acts as a strong diamagnet because it entirely expels any magnetic field from its interior, i.e. the Meissner effect. And that's really, really interesting, I think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Missile Man, specifically with the idea of room temperature superconductors, which is something that might become a reality in the near future. It's fascinating, right? Like bismuth also has a lot of interesting things going on, but what do you think about that?
Yeah. I just saw a talk by a superconductor researcher recently, and it's such an awesome field. It's just, I'd caution people, don't get we're a minute away from. I found out, and I was kind of depressed to find this out. We're further away from a room temperature superconductor than one might hope. At least in an iterative sense. If there could always be some bombshell, shocking revelation that sort of transforms it, but the highest temperature ambient pressure superconductor is something like 50 Kelvin or 98 Kelvin or something, which is still negative 200 and something degrees. And then there's like a 100 and something or 200 and something Kelvin, which is negative 70 or 80 degrees, but it needs to be in like many gigapascals of pressure, just like hundreds of thousands of atmospheres of pressure inside of a pressure chamber, which is a super not engineerable type of material, right? But it is super interesting. I desperately hope, here's the thing that I always get scared about is there's nothing in nature that guarantees that there is such a thing as a room temperature atmospheric pressure superconductor. I really hope there is. It'd be the most amazing thing to happen to mankind if there is. I mean, it'd be the most amazing invention of the last 500 years. Transform life. It'd be as impactful, if not more impactful, than quote unquote free energy. But we're kind of a minute. It's an insanely convoluted discipline. I was looking at this electron scanning imagery of like a nickelate superconductor that had been fabricated, and if you just put it together, if you just deposit the atoms slightly incorrectly, they'll all change phase, and you'll no longer have the material that you wanted anymore at all. Just like that. It's just that unstable. It's just a fascinating field.
Well, Missile Man, whenever I was taking descriptive inorganic chemistry in the spring of '99, and I made YBCO superconductor, that you throw some pellets of YBCO and you cool it with liquid nitrogen and the Meissner effects kick in and the magnets start floating. Dude, when I was a freshman chemistry student at University of Texas at Austin, and you do that experiment in your undergrad research lab or research general chemistry lab, dude, that's like Harry Potter level shit when you grew up on a pig farm in East Texas, right? And you start learning about Meissner effect and YBCO unit crystals.
It's Leviosa. Yeah, no, it's magical as shit, bro. Go on.
No, I'm just saying the unit cell for some of these coordinated inorganic chemistry molecules, some advanced ceramic stuff, is like some trade school craftsmanship that, they bake some ceramics and for a heat shield on the space shuttle that brought my Uncle Bob home. So some of those metamaterials, some of those advanced unit cells would give Linus Pauling some serious FOMO, you know?
Yeah, and just the other thing I want to touch on, you mentioned shadow biomes, right? Missile Man, you've touched on this before, how Tic Tacs and orbs and all these other kind of things might not be different ontologies, but just different frames of reference for the same kind of morphology of object, right? And I would like to hear your thoughts on that more, because there's a lot to be said about the difference between how we perceive things based on like our evolutionary biology versus how things might be as they actually are. Like, things don't have to be interdimensional or all this kind of crazy stuff, you know. It could just be limits to our perception. That idea is wild, that Tic Tacs and orbs and everything could just be the same thing, just phased in differently.
Phase is the key. No, phase is everything.
He's referring to how I had said, you know, I had made a post saying I think it's a really strong possibility we should consider that all these different shapes, many of them are maybe the same thing. That a pill and a sphere and a disc are all the same thing. It's just a matter of, like, you have to remember, we're used to thinking when you quote unquote see an object, you're literally seeing the physical representation, the stuff of the object, because normally in everyday life there aren't things in our everyday lives that like manipulate photons, manipulate space-time. That's not a normal experience for a human. So when you're looking at something that in fact does modify space-time in some really dramatic way, you got to remember, you're not seeing the thing, you're seeing its space-time projection. And so it could be turning in a funny way, or powering off or powering on, or whatever you want to call it, some kind of, you know, operational consequence, throttling up, throttling down. And it's the shape you're seeing is a function of that. I think that's a really strong possibility.
But as Gary Nolan said, topology, if you're looking at topology of the material, form fits function, right? So the design of the unit cell can interact with phase in different ways. And, you know, I hope AI helps us get there to that next level of nanoengineering and metamaterials, right?
Yo, Ad Astra, jump in here and then we'll go to Bob.
Hey, Astro, how you doing? Actually, now the topic's kind of changed quite a bit, but I was just kind of going up and expressing sort of my interest with Wirewolf's ideas, because in terms of the shadow biome, or I guess what perceived shadow biome that would be, it's starting to actually make more sense to me in a lot of different ways, because it works within our biological framework of science there. And, you know, there's a lot of discoveries that kind of happened recently in terms of discovering some of these more ancient, sort of archaic virals like viruses that are actually much bigger and huger than anything, you know, we've seen before, to the point where they're actually rewriting some of the cell theory of how eukaryotic cells kind of came out of existence. But it is interesting, and I think we're sort of at that point. I mean, if you get into, you know, just from my training as well, just kind of the understanding of how genetics works in biology, you start to come to the understanding that, you know, for lack of a better word, consciousness is sort of ingrained in the DNA, whether it's in the DNA itself or in the epigenetics of it, in terms of like this protein structures. It's sort of something we're still trying to discover, but essentially it kind of adds a whole new dimension of, I guess, of existence for something that could, I guess, theoretically encode sort of some type of consciousness and then act as like a hijacker in terms of it interacting with other cells and taking over and using them as instruments to try and form some of these other things that it needs to survive. But yeah, I'm starting to try and see more and more about the shadow biome, so I'm definitely going to be interested in that talk, UFO intros.
There's also some variations on it a little bit. You know, we know that there have been glaciations, and humanity has been around for at least a modern Homo sapiens, at least, you know, 300,000 years, according to some of the best experts. And it's conceivable that, like, we find a tremendous amount of basically different types of a biosphere and different creatures we haven't found before at such deep levels into the ground. If let's say a branch of hominids went underground, they might get bigger eyes, lose the melanin, may perhaps be smaller, which kind of matches a description of a gray. But also there's things like, if Mars had life, and when we look at the span of possibilities of life on Mars, that's, a conceivability in our own, solar system. There could have been different levels of, transfer. And there's, a lot of theories about that. There's some interesting other ideas that are rational as well, too, where some of this, there could be a lot of things going on behind the scenes with humans. I heard a good friend of mine talk about how the Library of Alexandria, the greatest knowledge, humans had, gathered at the time, it was burnt down 3 times. And you could imagine a secret group coming together and saying, let's prize knowledge above all else and be ahead of, modern society and do this all in secret and be more advanced than, most of society and civilization. And, curate this data and information. You could imagine them having super advanced technologies. The shadow biome's interesting too. When you think about stealth technology, a radar bounces off these facets, like on the stealth fighter. And depending on, where it basically bounces off of, a signal is received that gives a hint as to the size of the craft, whether they think it's a bird or other things. But if you think of the same thing with photons, and there's some sort of kind of faceted, stealthy kind of craft, 2 people not too far away from each other could see 2 different things. There are a lot of notions too that, I don't know the physics behind it, about a higher dimensional reality. And I loved the thought that a lot of these different things could all be representative of the same thing. There's curator notions, like we're in Disney World and all the workers underneath are behind, everything we see and sustaining it. So these are like really important questions and kind of shocking next level questions. And I'm glad that, people are contributing to these theories. Love you guys.
Yeah, I'll post some stuff that I was just talking about in terms of like these new cells that are basically just all RNA and DNA. And the whole purpose is they actually kind of envelop other cells, and then the RNA kind of utilizes them to create the machinery to do what it needs to do in terms of its DNA. And these are relatively new things that kind of they discovered in Japan, I believe. So yeah, it is interesting, and I think, if I had to believe in something in terms of like an NHI, this sort of like emergent intelligence from something that's been floating around, maybe astral-wise and panspermia, kind of coming to Earth and emerging here as a sideline kind of direction to intelligent development and evolution is sort of more of a possibility to me. And yeah, it's interesting to hear people talk about it. So
you should share that new cell type or virus type up in the nest. But if you want to get an idea or you want a tinfoil hat about constant editing here on Earth, you'll love to know that in a 1 cubic centimeter of seawater, there's more than 10,000 bacteriophage viruses, which are essentially just like a molecular gene injector floating around in seawater. So if you wanted to hypothesize that something's out there, messing with the planet, just dumping it into the ocean to make the edits you want for changing atmospheric composition or some other thing in the ocean, that could be a thing, but you just have to look at the bacteriophages and come up with a theory about what you think they're doing or what they're driving. But it's probably just viruses boss, for sea organisms.
Wag boss, I got a question for you. I told Astral and Alien Protocols and intros, I'm asking for prayer for my wife because she's got an unknown etiological agent that created a sepsis in her system. She went to septicemia on our anniversary. So I'm asking for prayers for my wife because she's in the hospital. and she's doing good. You know, I'm taking care of the critters and the plants. But I want some prayers for my wife, you know, hearts in the chat, you know. But my wife, Teresa Tyndall, a prominent ufologist, you know, someone who's dedicated her life to the subject. 100%. Her life, her dharma has been given for this subject. And she needs a little, you know, little positivity, a little lift up from, you know, the assembling of ourselves together. You know, I hope I'm a righteous man, because the prayer of a righteous man is powerful. And so I'm praying for her and taking care of the critters and, you know, doing a little risky business, Jerry Maguire style. I ain't cross-dressing and calling up fetish models. You know, I'm just listening to some good records and praying for my wife.
You got this, Matt. You and your wife, you're going to be good. I have faith.
Yeah, bro. I'll keep
and let her know that a lot of us are praying for her. Let her know there's people praying for her. We've got faith and positivity about it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, bro. Keeping your wife in the prayers. And Wag Boss, on the point that you made, bro, USOs should be a much bigger part of the conversation, I think, than they currently are. Like, there's some interesting, like, you know, Missile Man, you mentioned plasma physics, water plasma interactions, also photonics for chip engineering, like above the surface versus underwater. There's some kind of interesting kind of variables there. And so, yeah, USOs are a pretty wild rabbit hole.
Hey guys, just wanted to say, was it Quantum that was talking about his wife?
Well, yeah. I don't usually talk about her, but I could use all the prayers right now. Because especially with Blue Cross Blue Shield's little spat with Memorial Hermann, you know, we were caught in the crossfire. You know, when you have to learn about continuity of care, when your insurance company, you know, cancels the shit with Memorial Hermann hospitals, and you're worried about financial ruining our home. This is real. It hits you real, you know, and I've been trying to do my best to make sure the continuity of care for her is adequate, and that, you know, the in-network costs are still there. But when those things start to impact your family and the healthcare system, which is broke as fuck, you know, starts to when there's emergency situations and sepsis and unknown etiological agents start to they don't know what's going on with my wife. You know, it's like that anomalous health incident shit. And we don't know what's happening, but I saved her life on our anniversary when the rigors set in, when the blood pressure drops, the chills and rigors is a technical term. And the sepsemia, like they're trying to figure out what's going on. And then, you know, there's some like contract dispute between your insurance company and the hospital system. It's real. Look it up. BCBSTX and Memorial Hermann are having a war. And we're caught in the crossfire because my wife on our anniversary goes into the hospital because I told the ambulance to go there. And then shit happens. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm dropping down. But please pray for my wife.
Yeah, Quantum, we'll pray for you, my friend. I just wanted to say that
you, man.
You know, especially your wife being somebody who's been in the UFO community, I'm sure But I know it's very different in the UK because we have something called the NHS, which is the National Health Service, and I know in America everybody has to deal with all these bullshit fees and private healthcare, and it's honestly, personally, I think it's a mess what's happening in the US with healthcare. But please send me a DM, my friend, because I would love to send you. I mean, I know I didn't announce anything yet, but we have a coin called the Lazar coin. The main thing is to kind of promote the truth, promote everything we're doing with ufology, disclosing alien tech, whatever it is, but just searching for the truth. And I want to send you 1 million Lazar. At the moment, we just launched a few days ago, my friend, but I definitely want to help you out if you're okay receiving from me, my friend. I don't know if Quantum is saying he wants to receive anything from me, but I would just expand on a bit more about the Lazar token. It's mostly to do with spreading the truth, everything that we got on here. I know there's a lot of skepticism with regards to crypto and whatnot, but I'm happy to, answer any questions and kind of clear things out if anybody else wants to answer.
It's Bob Lazar week, baby.
We have we released a few days ago, like maybe 2 to 3 days ago right now. So it's very low in terms of like the market cap. We're just building the community. We're just figuring out, we're getting the right partnerships and making something that's going to be long lasting. So if anybody wants to check that out, please feel free to check out Lazar. But Quantum, I would love to send you something. I would love to help you out in any way that I can. So please send me a DM.
Hell yeah. Oh shit, we got Quantum coming back up. Just a heads up, I'm gonna probably give the space about 20 more minutes.
No, I just want to reply.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to exploit my wife for some crypto.
No, what is, bro?
I know, but Bob Lazar, I appreciate the gesture 100%. I'm just not going to exploit my wife for some crypto meme coin. It's not right. You don't do that. That's not right. And I'm hurting. So I appreciate any help or any prayers, but I'm not going to exploit a meme coin. Just saying, I'm dropping down.
Praying for him, Matt.
Yeah.
I don't mean to exploit anything, Matt, honestly. That was not my intention. I just wanted to support in any way that I can. Even if you need cash, I'll be able to send you something.
I appreciate it.
I'll take his tokens. Don't worry about it.
I'm just staying out of it. I just love my wife. She saved my life. She's my twin flame, my soulmate, and she's proof that they exist. And I love my wife. And I just want her to feel better.
I'm truly sorry to hear that, my friend, honestly. I have somebody as well close to me who's very, very sick. The doctors don't know, what's really going on. So I definitely feel for you. Definitely in my prayers, my friend.
All right, man, we'll throw it around. I don't really know how to follow that up, really. Paranormal, you jumped up, and then we can throw it around to anybody else before I close it up. But I really appreciate the space, guys. I love the discussion. If you guys want to close up on your final thoughts on Bob Lazar, I'll give mine before I close it up too.
That's actually what I was just gonna suggest. Is maybe we just refresh the space with a little Lazar. I'm just gonna flat out say I don't believe him at all. I think he's a great storyteller and he's very convincing. But when you dig into the history and you just really, really go beyond the story and you go to the man and to what really was going on, I mean, even when you even have people like Stanton Friedman and Eric Davis calling him out as being complete bullshit, like, I think people should probably listen, because Stanton kind of even believes some bullshit. So yeah, that's my take on Lazar. I don't hate Lazar. I wish him the best. He certainly made quite a bit of money off of his films and models and interviews and things like that over the years. So, I wish him the best. But I feel like this story has been played so many times over and over and over again. And, new people catch on, and I guess that's good for him, but it's not necessarily good for ufology. And that's my opinion.
Grider was quick to jump up. What's up, Grider?
Hey, so we're gonna have a watch party for the documentary right after this space is over in the Aquarium Discord. So yeah, I mean, fuck capitalism, dude. Yeah. So send me a DM if anybody needs like an invitation. But yeah, it'll be right after this, and we're just gonna hop right in and watch the documentary. It's not gonna be, like any conversating at first, right? So yeah, just shoot me a DM and I'll send you an invite if you don't already have one. So, oh, and yeah, Bob is full of shit. Like, right? As far as the totality of his story, I think we can pretty much conclude that he was not working on extraterrestrial technology out there. But I think it's very likely that he could have had a job working as, some type of radiation tech, taking measurements, at the test site. So I think that's possible. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that EG&G, so of course you've heard of EG&G Special Projects, right? That company. Well, that's not the primary EG&G company out there, or at least that was not the primary company during the late 1980s. It was actually EG&G EM, EG&G Electric, or excuse me, EG&G EG&G, it was energy measurements. Yeah, so EM stands for energy measurements, right? And what they did is they came out there and they took all types of fallout, like where they had the fallout from all the testing that they did with the nuclear bombs in the 60s. Well, they have to test for that, right? Because a bunch of them were underground tests. And there's a risk, right, that some of the areas could still be contaminated and could get into the water supply, and just it's pretty nasty, right? And they're still doing chemical weapons testing out there at the test site, right? But it's all underground, right? Supposedly they're doing nuclear still, but it's all underground, so they have to test constantly, right? To see what is ventilating to the surface and spreading, right? Because it could be an issue, right, for the surrounding populace. So I think more than likely, I would imagine that they're not looking for like Harvard graduates, with an impeccable record to go out there and take these measurements, right? I mean, it doesn't take a genius to go out there and, take a measurement, right, using like a sensor. So that's what I think happened. And I think that makes sense, right? I think probably that once he got fired, after he took friends out there, to the test site, to see one of the, shows that they had where, to see one of the testing that they had with the whatever craft that they were flying or plasma, that they were creating above the test site on Wednesdays. I think once that happened, I think, he broke some rules, right? Or maybe, him just like telling his friends, right? I would imagine that, it's a possibility that he was in fact out there at the test site and then he got fired, and maybe, the brothel was causing some issues with, the fact that he was running an illegal brothel and he was actually getting his hookers from other brothels. So he would go up to Nye County where they have legal brothels, and he would like pay for an hour, right, with a hooker, and then he would just start interviewing her for like a job at his brothel. So he was poaching hookers from other brothels, and although the brothels may be legal, you know, at that time in, you know, Nevada, right, it's still some unsavory types that were the ones that were running the brothels, right? You know, criminals.
Yo, this is crazy research.
Yeah, so like criminals were the ones that were running the brothels, right? Although that they were legal, right? And they didn't fuck around. There's a book called The Nye County Brothel Wars, right? You can find it for free on it's on archive.org, right? Nye County Brothel Wars, and it talks about the early 70s through like the mid 1980s, where the brothels, they were literally killing each other, right? They were battling over turf, and these are legal brothels, right? You know. But I mean, it was nasty. There was corruption involved. It was kind of reminiscent of like the mafia wars, right? But it was happening in in Nevada, Nye County, right outside of Vegas. So think about that. Bob was going and poaching.
It was like a kingpin, bro.
His women. He was poaching his women, you know, from these other brothels. So like the idea that he would be getting shot at, you know what? It makes a little bit of sense, you know, right? Like, okay, that's explainable, right? Because you're stealing another pimp's, girls, right? And then,
yeah, didn't it?
One other thing too is like Edward Teller. So, last thing that I'll say is like I found an interview where it talked about how Teller had a habit. He had kind of a thing that he did throughout his life. He loved to give young people chances, right? Just to like, to set up like a student of his with, a great opportunity, right? He loved to give young people opportunities to, if a young person asked, for help with something, then Edward Teller would have, probably said yes, or he would have found a way to make it work, right? He was absolutely known for that, right? For like trying to be a mentor, trying to, do as much as he can to, use his powers to, aid young people in succeeding, right? So the idea that Bob would have got a reference from him, it's plausible. It's absolutely plausible. But I mean, as far as like the flying saucers and all that, and also Dennis Mariani, this is something. So last thing I'll say is, you guys know his supervisor was supposedly Dennis Mariani, right? That's his name, or that, what's his name? Well, go to Google and type in Dennis Mariani desert drag racing, right? And you'll see that there's a guy named Dennis Mariani, a father and son, Dennis Mariani and Dennis Mariani Jr., who in the mid 2000s until now have become legendary desert drag racers, right? Where they, the same type of racing that Bob Lazar was doing in the 80s. So what are the chances that Bob Lazar, was out in the desert, right? Drag racing on the Bonneville Salt Flats with Dennis Mariani, a guy named Dennis Mariani. And then all of a sudden, he goes and he works at like the test site, and his supervisor is Dennis Mariani also, right? There's something not right there, right? So I don't know. The case is going to be argued about forever, and I just don't see any end to it. But, there's always new stuff to learn. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically my take. It's all the information I have.
Hey, Ryder, I'd love to watch that movie. Can I get an invite to that Discord?
Yeah, I mean, break it up a little bit.
Grider, can I get an invite as well? I can't DM you because you don't follow me.
At least I know why you blocked Kimball. I have no idea why you blocked me, dude. I'm not trying to start some public drama, but,
Just wanted to add on something quickly, guys. Just want to apologize to Quantum. I did not mean to come off in any negative way. I genuinely wanted to support your bills or anything to support your wife. So I just want to give a sincere apology to you. And I just want to clarify, I know there's a lot of people who have a negative view when it comes to crypto coins, when it comes to anything related to investments and trading in that sense. But there are a bunch of people, a bunch of coins out there that are there to help people, that are there to do good, right? And this is something that I'm trying to do. I've been in the UFO space for almost a decade, I've even witnessed a UFO myself, but putting that to the side, I've always been somebody that's seeking truth. I know, like Grider, you don't really believe a lot of things when it comes to Lazar, and you have your skepticism, and you're allowed to. On the other hand, there are a lot of believers as well who also believe in Lazar's story, and they're allowed to too. But the main thing is being that we are all seeking truth, and we are all trying to figure out what is true here, what is not true, and especially with how, you know, the disclosure with the UFOs, of alien tech, whatnot. Even if it comes to, you know, what Missile Man was talking about with all the sciences, right? We're all here seeking something, we're all here seeking truth. And I think that in itself is very, very beautiful. And what we represent, the coin that I'm trying to push forward, is to seek truth. And that's the main mission, but to also fund truth, to also support people financially who are researching, who are trying to, you know, spread the message of truth. So I completely understand there's this negative view of crypto, and I've also been in crypto for a long time, and I will tell you, 90% of crypto coins are scams and are rogues and are people who are just making a bit of money and that's it, right? But there is a very small percentage out there that are focusing on something good, focusing on some, you know, community building, focusing on giving back to the people who support the mission. So I just want to clear that up, just so I know, again, I want to make a sincere apology to Quantum. There was no negative intention to exploit your wife in any way like that. Genuinely just trying to support you. But I guess where I come from, my world of crypto, that's how we do things. You know, we send coins to people to help them, or we give away rewards in that sense. So
yeah, I hope he's not thinking it that way. Yeah.
I mean, so it's not that I wasn't trying to come off in any wrong way, but I can see how it can be perceived in that way. But it's just what we're used to in our kind of space. That's what we do to help others. But yeah,
we gotta say for the record that I already lost $200 on this Lazar token, so it's, you know, anecdotal, but just, you know, stating this, that was my experience.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, I'm not telling people to put in money that they can afford, that they cannot afford to lose. It's an investment, it's a trade. You're gonna get losses. That's just the world of crypto. But I will tell you one thing. Right now, it's only been literally 3 days since this mission coin has launched, and I'm not here to I'm not going anywhere. Basically, I'm here to kind of build something. I'm here to kind of build a community around this mission of seeking truth. So I'm sorry that you lost money there, Missile Man, but it is an investment, and I'm not going to tell you to invest what you cannot afford to lose.
He's going to fucking lose his house.
See, I was looking for, like, I mean, all this truth and virtue and I mean, like, all these, like, you know, nice words. I mean, like, that's great and everything, but I was looking for, like, hoes in different area codes money. You know, you can't fucking you can't buy, you know, pussy and weed with fucking you know, these virtues, you know, truth that you're talking about, right? You can't walk into a strip club and throw down some truth, right? You need them the greenbacks, you know what I'm saying, right? As Chappelle would say. So, like, I'm just saying, like, that's what I was looking for. You know, we were supposed to, like, I was looking for a community where we're going to rip off other people, not like me lose my money. I mean, this has happened. It's like Groundhog Day. This shit happened. I don't know how I didn't learn my lesson. This shit happened 2 years ago with Rogers, you know, like yeah, I mean, really, it breaks my heart. Like, I was looking forward to scamming other people as a community. All right. And once again, I find myself on the outs. And I just really,
are you on the outs when you're?
That was after Al Roker.
Hey,
Bob, you don't get it.
Apparent reason. Like, what the fuck, bro? Sorry, I'm not trying to.
Is this because of Grider's financial hardship? You just raised the rent on 3 families with young children. I hope you know that.
Is this Grider speaking? I do want to just reply to him. Was it Grider talking about the Rogers thing?
That was also a year ago, not 2, but yes, it was.
Okay, yeah.
No, this is Sarah Beth.
So just to reply to
wait,
Grider,
she's not even up here. Fuck.
Just to reply to Grider, I have been aware of what happened with, you know, with this particular Rogers coin. I wasn't there at the time. I've never heard of it. I just recently heard of what happened with people, you know, buying it and being scammed. But that coin, from my understanding, it wasn't even a UFO coin. It wasn't even a mission coin. It was just a random coin that was.
I'm good on this. Gotta roll. Peace, guys.